Hey guys, tonight we're stepping inside a room that smells like orchid rot and powdered loyalty. You'll want to keep your hands in your lap for this one, because everything in this story is silk-covered, whisper-wrapped, and strangely sticky. In medieval China, to enter the inner court wasn't just about beauty or obedience, it was about surrender. You surrendered your name, your body, your voice, sometimes even your soul, and you did it willingly. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I love seeing how far this sleepy little time machine reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first rule is no names. Not even yours, especially not yours. You're told this the moment your feet leave the servants' corridor and touch the first reed mat of the chamber of erasure. The air in here doesn't move. It clings like it's been soaked in perfume, squeezed dry, then hung to ferment. You smell dried chrysanthemums, crushed cinnabar, and the faint, ghostly bitterness of pine ink. Everything feels too clean, which is its own kind of dirt. The robe they gave you for the ceremony is soft enough to shame a whisper. Cream-coloured silk, unbelted, unstitched. It glides off your skin whenever you exhale too hard, like it wants to be rid of you before you're even remade. 4 girls kneel beside you, veiled, anonymous. None of you speak. The silence is so tight it hums in your chest. You can hear the faint scratching of the ink brush before you even see it. The old eunuch at the centre of the room doesn't look up. His head is bald except for a patch at the back, twisted into a greying braid that trails down his robe like a forgotten thread. His fingers are stained not with blood, but with powdered black ink, the kind made from burnt cedar and deer bone. Expensive, sacred, permanent. He's writing names on parchment, one name at a time. Your name is next. He asks you, without moving his mouth, do you surrender? You nod, but that's not enough. You're handed a bowl of sticky ginger wine. Floating in it is a small pearl with a character etched into its centre. She to breathe, or to rest. You're told to swallow it without chewing. You do. It cuts a little going down, but not enough to cry. The old man's brush dips again. He writes your real name in large, careful strokes. Then, beneath it, your court name chosen for you. It translates roughly to graceful reflection, but in truth, it means nothing. Just a mirror with no memory. He picks up a shallow dish of water and begins to wash your name away. The ink bleeds upward, smearing your past into something viscous and unshaped. He doesn't rush. He waits until your real name is a ghost stain. Then he burns the parchment. No applause, no chanting, just silence. Again, the ceremony is complete. You're no longer a person, you're an instrument. Your thighs ache from kneeling, but no one moves until the bell rings. When it finally does one soft note, hollow and low, you rise like steam from a tea bowl. One girl rises too fast. Her head wobbles. She tilts sideways and crumples like linen. No scream, no gasp, just a thud, muffled by the mats. The eunuchs carry her out. They don't even look concerned. Your group moves as one toward the next chamber. Long hallways stretch forward, softly glowing with candlelight behind rice paper screens. Every 20 steps, the floor texture changes, first smooth stone, then braided mat, then lacquered tile. This is intentional. It's how the body learns obedience without being told, how memory becomes rhythm. The servant assigned to you has a name you're not allowed to know. She moves behind you like a second shadow, not touching but close enough to feel her breath when you hesitate. She smells of clove, salt, and something faintly metallic. Left, she says once, and you turn. You enter the registry of touches. It's colder here. The walls are red lacquer, the floor black wood, the ceiling painted with coiling dragons, each mouth open, each eye blind. A boy clerk, maybe 13, kneels at a desk. He doesn't greet you. He simply gestures for your palm. His own hands are trembling. You press your palm into a stone block smeared with sweet black ink, then onto a sheet of rice paper. Your fingerprint blooms, perfect and wet. This becomes your proof of submission. Later, they will file it under your court name, stored in a shelf alongside hundreds of others. If you ever disobey, this is how they will know you were once real. The boy stamps the paper with a symbol that means prepared. Nothing more. You are now eligible. They don't say eligible for what, but you start to understand when the next door opens. The air changes immediately. Warmer, clammier, a smell of camellia oil, hot stones, and overripe lychee. The scent is everywhere in the inner court. It seeps into your skin, into your sleep. The girls call it courtesan perfume. Once you smell it, you never forget. You're led into the hall of cleansing. No, not water. You've bathed already. This is different. Your robe is taken by two silent matrons. They cut it down the back instead of untying it, letting it fall off you like a snake shedding its last lie. You're now naked in a room where no one makes eye contact, and yet you feel constantly seen. There are no windows, just screens painted with peaches and butterflies, their soft pastel wings watching you. A woman with a voice like honeyed vinegar approaches. She wears 5 rings on one hand. She lifts your chin with a brush handle. Too much peasant in the cheekbones, she says. Not to you, but to the woman beside her. They begin work. Your eyebrows are reshaped, plucked until they mimic the curve of a phoenix tail. Your lips are stained with crushed plum skin, slightly bruised at the edges. Your fingernails are painted with sap from a ghost tree, milky, iridescent, unreal. They bind your chest, not to hide it, but to reshape it into something ornamental. There is a razor. They shave the back of your neck. The soft hairs fall like tiny feathers onto the black silk cloth beneath your knees. You're no longer a girl. You're becoming an idea. One of the older women whispers a warning. Do not smile with teeth. They called that the farmer's laugh. Smile with your eyes, with your breath. Never with bone. You practice. And fail. And practice again. The last touch is oil brushed along your collarbones, wrists, and behind your ears. It smells like sandalwood and old peach stones. You are dressed again. This time in the preparation robe, still silk, but heavier. Pale pink, embroidered with chrysanthemums and tiny black moths. The moths are a message, death, but beautiful. Your final item is a silk mouth cover tied at the base of your skull. This is not to protect others from your breath, but to protect your voice from escaping. No one speaks unless the Emperor permits it. That includes you. You catch your reflection in a polished bronze panel on the door. You look lovely and nothing like yourself. The matron kisses her fingers, taps your forehead, and says, now you're ready to be noticed. Not loved, not touched, just noticed. The door opens, and from the hallway beyond, you hear it. The soft chime of gold bangles, the hush of veils against skin, the sound of someone being chosen. You step forward, bare feet against warm lacquer, and the world behind you disappears like your name in powdered ink. It smells like dried citrus and powdered rust. That's the first thing that hits you as the eunuch leads you deeper into the pavilion past the ceremony hall, past the curtained rooms and incense-bloated corridors, until the scent of orchid oil gives way to something colder, duller, like blood that's been politely wiped off the tiles but still lingers in the grout. The hall you enter is not wide, but it is tall, ceiling arched like a prayer someone forgot to finish. The lanterns here hang low and long, their silk tassels brushing the floor like lazy ghosts. Some have been dyed with crushed saffron, others with charcoal and red lake. The glow they cast is not golden, but bruised. You're not alone. There are more of them now, eunuchs, at least 6. Some young, their faces smooth as porcelain soup bowls. Some old, with eyes like folded paper and mouths that never quite open all the way. None of them speak, they observe. That's the difference between them and the others. The women back in the chamber of erasure may have erased your name, but the eunuchs erase your silence. They stare so long and so still that your breath starts to feel like a secret you are never supposed to keep. The one who leads you is called Lord Xiang. You're not supposed to know that, but someone whispered it during a foot washing and when your head was bowed and the steam made your thoughts slippery. He walks with a slight limp, barely noticeable, like a kink in silk ribbon. His hands are gloved, always, not for protection, for power. He takes you to a room that looks like an afterthought narrow, panelled in blackwood, with a lattice that lets the light in just enough to remind you you're being watched. There's only one seat. It is not for you. He motions for you to kneel. You do, because what else is there to do? The floor is cool stone, smooth, but not clean. You can feel the grit against your skin, sandalwood and crushed peach pits, powdered shells and things too soft to have names. He speaks. Finally, your body is no longer yours. He says, not unkindly, it is ours, but not for use. You don't understand. He continues, it is for display, for weight, for silence, like a teacup in the emperor's study, handled only when the mood fits. You nod. He smiles, thin, hollow. Good girl, he says, but girls rot, so we will make you steel beneath silk. A eunuch behind him brings forward a tray. On it an assortment of objects that feel more like instruments than adornments. A ribbon, black, glossy, stiffened with lacquer. A set of tiny bells, silent until disturbed. A curved mirror, no bigger than a tea cake, rimmed in coral, and finally a fan. Not for cooling, for training. Hold it, Shang says. You reach out. The fan is heavy, unfolded. It reveals a painting 3 cranes, flying backward through plum rain. You don't understand it, but the way the brushstrokes fade mid-wing gives you a strange chill, like someone's dream was cut off mid-sentence. You will walk with this, sleep with this, bathe with this. It must become an extension of your thought. You nod again, but this time he frowns. No, don't nod. That's common. When you agree with something in the inner court, you bow your breath. Do you know how to do that? You don't? He demonstrates. A slow exhale, one nostril slightly more open than the other, chin tilting but not downward, eyes lowered but still awake. You try. Too fast. The fan wobbles. The bells rattle. His eyes sharpen. The other eunuchs shift almost imperceptibly, like snakes rearranging themselves in sleep. Again, you inhale, exhale. Still wrong. But this time, they say nothing. That's somehow worse. You're escorted to what they call the quiet room. Inside, it is neither quiet nor a room. It's an oval chamber with fabric walls, and the fabric is stitched with tiny bronze mirrors, each no larger than a coin. You see yourself everywhere, but not quite right. Some images are warped, some delayed, some flipped. In the center, a stone basin. Steam rises from it, not from heat, but from some concoction of orchid milk, vinegar, and fox root. You're told to sit beside it, naked, and inhale until your chest stops arguing. Then you are given the drill: walk, fold, pause, hold the fan halfway, turn left, open your fingers, smile, but only from your collarbone up. Every mistake you make is echoed in a bell, not a loud one, not even sharp, just a soft ting, like someone far away calling for help with a cup of water. You make a dozen bells sing before you get through a single cycle, and they make you do it again. By the 6th round, your calves are cramping and the floor feels hotter. Or maybe you are. The mirrors start to stutter. You catch glimpses of yourself, one eye twitching, lips too parted, the edge of your veil slipping. You wonder if this is what madness feels like, being asked to perfect the act of not existing. They let you rest. Eventually, you lie down on a cushion that smells like fermented rice and old hair. The lights don't go out. They just dim to the colour of spoiled milk. A eunuch sits across from you, saying nothing, holding a scroll. You know he's sketching your pose, judging how still you can be, how long your fingers rest without trembling, whether your silence has weight, or if it's just air pretending. You try not to think of the girl who collapsed in part 1. You try not to wonder if she screamed. Instead, you let your breathing slow, let your bones sink deeper into the cushion, let the fan slide from your fingers, like silk resigning itself to the wind. You sleep, or something like it, in your dream. A crane walks backward into a bowl of ink and doesn't come out. When you wake, Lord Shang is there again. He offers you tea. You don't drink it. That's not your role. He does. He watches you. Then says, "You'll enter the lantern room tonight. That's all." But you've heard rumours. During massage, in the bathhouse steam, girls whisper of the lantern room the way soldiers whisper of ghosts. Not because it's painful, but because it is beautiful. Too beautiful. You enter at dusk. The room is lit with 100 lanterns, none of which give off light. Instead, they glow with soft dust, crushed pearls, and mica dust blown into silk, lit from within by oil infused with powdered beetle wings. They shimmer, not glow, like stars that don't want to be seen. There are no chairs, only platforms, low, floating, like offerings. Each girl is assigned one. You're not given a cue, just a fan and a set of gestures. You're to perform them until dismissed, not until told to stop, until anyone decides you've been seen enough. The eunuchs observe from behind screens. Sometimes they murmur, sometimes they say nothing. A girl across from you moves wrong. Her heel lifts. A bell chimes. 2 men in green robes enter and guide her out. You never see her again. You forget her name by the time the candle in your lantern burns down to the thread. You are allowed to rise, your calves scream. Your fan hand is numb, but your face still perfect. They say you performed well, not excellent, just well. But that is enough. You are escorted out, past the mirrors, past the screens, back to the stone floor and the soft hum of a room that's always watching. And as you lie down to rest, veil still tied, back still rigid, fan still warm from your palm, you hear a bell ring again. But this time, no one leaves, and for a moment, you wonder. Was it for you? It begins with the robe that doesn't open. You stand in the dressing chamber, arms held loose at your sides like you're trying not to remember that they're yours. The room is warm, but not from kindness. There's a brazier in the corner burning camphor and black vinegar. The smell slices into the back of your throat and makes your eyes water. Not enough to cry, just enough to blur. The 2 women attending you say nothing. Their faces are powdered until the cheekbones vanish, until the skin gleams like waxed fruit. You suspect they have names, but you will never learn them. You suspect they had mothers once, but they probably learned not to speak of that, either. They do not undress you. They cut you out. With embroidery scissors, one holds the sleeve taut, the other snips along the seam like she's unzipping a lie. The fabric falls open in layers, first silk, then gauze, then linen. Each one whispers as it lands, a sound like rice pouring through a thin funnel. By the end, you are bare, but not naked. There's a difference. Naked is something you choose. Bare is something done to you. The older of the 2 women wipes your body down with a cloth soaked in orchid vinegar. It smells sour, like beauty rotting in a sealed jar. It stings where the skin is thinner elbows, throat, between your shoulder blades. Then she paints you. Yes, paints. Not makeup, not perfume. Paint. She starts with your collarbones, a faint sheen of gold powder brushed over with goose feather bristles. Then your wrist silver ink, calligraphy thin, wrapping your veins like spells. You try to read them, but the letters shift when you blink. You stop blinking. Your eyes are next. Not the lashes, those have already been curled into crescent shapes with a strip of fishbone and hot tongs. No, now she paints the lids. White, then red, then the thinnest black line along the lower rim, meant to simulate tears not yet shed. Then she says the word you didn't know you were dreading binding. You're told to lie face down on the lacquered bench. The lacquer is cracked in one place. You trace it with your cheekbone. It looks like a river bending back on itself. You hear the snap of cloth, not silk, not cotton, something stiffer, older, treated hide, maybe dyed red. The first wrap tightens around your hips, not your waist, your hips, then the thighs, then the chest. They bind you the way one might bind a scroll to be stored. Not red, it's not painful, that's worse. If it hurt, you'd have proof. Instead, you feel yourself shift, muscles held in new angles, bones forced to carry themselves differently. Your breath comes shallower, because the lungs are compressed not by weight, but by expectation. When you sit up, you're taller, your shoulders are narrower, your feet have been powdered, painted, and squeezed into embroidered slippers half a size too small. You look like someone you almost remember, like a cousin from a dream, like a statue built in your honor and then forgotten in a temple no one visits anymore. They give you a mirror. It is not glass, it is polished bronze. The image it reflects is soft, yellowed, distorted at the edges. You see your cheekbones, higher now, your lips, fuller, your eyes, other, and beneath all that you, just barely, like someone tapping from inside a lantern. One of the women fastens a brooch to your sash. It's shaped like a moth, wings spread. Not a butterfly. A moth, pale, flightless, drawn to flames. This, she says, is your classification. You don't ask what it means. You know better now. They call it the grace frame. It's not just posture, it's a doctrine. You're walked through the rules of movement like a marionette being instructed in its own strings. Arms must always fall like waterfalls. Knees should not bend unless commanded. Neck tilts must imply curiosity, never challenge. Smiles begin at the clavicle, not the mouth. Eye contact is a risk, a gift, a trap. You memorize it all, because failure means rebinding, and the skin is only so elastic. They take you to the hall of reflection, not for meditation, not for memory, for verification. The room is lined with mirrored panels, dozens, hundreds, all angled to show you from every possible point above, behind, below. You catch glimpses of yourself you've never seen before. The dip between spine and shoulder, the way your left foot drags half an inch slower than the right. Every floor is marked, not in ink, in silence. A eunuch standing beside the door carries a silk fan and taps it against his palm when displeased. Tap. Your shoulder too tense. Tap. Your eyelid fluttered out of rhythm. Tap. You forgot to curve your pinky when sipping the phantom tea. It's like learning to exist again. Only this time, someone else wrote the instruction manual, and every chapter begins with a warning. By midday, your body feels foreign. By evening, it feels obedient. That night, you are allowed to bathe. Not alone. Never alone. You are led to the sunken pools, where the water is steamed with chrysanthemum petals and green tea. It's shallow, designed to force modesty by necessity, not virtue. Other girls are already there. Their bodies are silent. They do not speak. They do not compare bruises. You lower yourself into the water and let the warmth leach into your reshaped ribs. Your chest doesn't rise as high. Your limbs don't float the way they used to. You wonder if that's symbolic. A girl near you slips and cuts her ankle on the edge of a submerged tile. She makes no sound. The water doesn't turn red. It turns cloudy. She's taken away. No one moves. You stay still until the bell chimes. That's how you know the session is over. The last thing you see before leaving is a small cloth bundle, folded neatly beside the stairs. It contains a comb, a silk pad, and a strip of dried pear. A reward. You're told to chew the pear before bed. Not for hunger, for pliability. It's infused with powdered orchid root, mildly sedative, mildly hallucinogenic, completely mandatory. You do as you're told. As you lie down, breath tight, chest wrapped, body painted like a poem meant for one reader, only you think about what's changed. And you realize this is not just transformation, this is replacement. Your old self was not improved. She was removed. You are what remains. And the worst part, you're starting to like the quiet. The lychee arrives before the woman does. You don't hear it, you smell it. That soft, fermented sugar scent like overripe melon left in a locked room. It crawls into your nostrils even before the door opens, before the curtain pulls back, before your hands are even unbound. You're seated on a cushion. Your knees are tucked under your robe just as they taught you. Back straight, eyes lowered, hands in lap. Palms not up too eager, not down too closed. Curled, like a blossom not yet trusted to bloom. The air around you hums with incense. Not the bitter temple kind, but the sweet, cloying kind that feels like it's coating your tongue. You breathe carefully. One inhale too deep, and you'll gag. Then she enters, not with fanfare, no trumpets, no perfume cloud, just the quiet thud of wood sandals and the sudden hush that follows. She's old. Older than anyone you've seen inside the court so far. Her face is drawn tight, like parchment warped in the rain and then dried under stones. Her eyes are sharp, not cruel, just deeply tired of seeing lies. She carries a lacquered box, the size of a dinner plate, painted with plum blossoms, ringed with red thread. She places it between you and kneels on the other side. Her robe is black, plain, unadorned. It swallows the lantern light. She doesn't speak. She opens the box. Inside, one lychee. That's it. Not peeled, not sliced, not arranged with any elegance. Just one fruit, fresh, glinting, still moist with its own sweetness. The red skin is bumpy, spined like a quiet warning. There's a napkin beside it. Silk, of course, embroidered with the character for offer. You're not told what to do, but you are. Somehow, you bow your breath, just like they taught you, and you wait. The old woman watches, not your face, your shoulders, your hands, the way your fingers twitch against your knees. Then, with a single nod, she reaches forward and peels the lychee. She does it slowly. Skin cracks with a papery rip. Juice gathers at the tip of her fingers. She pulls the fruit open not fully, just enough to reveal its inner flesh, pale, glistening, tender. She holds it out. You hesitate, not out of fear, out of knowledge. You've heard of the lychee test, always whispered, never explained. The ritual where a girl is chosen not for beauty, or grace, or cleverness, but for how she receives. You take the fruit, it's warm from her hands. You bring it to your lips, not too fast greedy, not too slow resistant. You bite, just once. The juice runs, down your chin, onto your fingers, sticky, intimate. It tastes like a memory you didn't know you had, like summer that ended too soon, like something you'll never taste again without guilt. The woman watches, still expressionless. You chew, you swallow, and you wait. She reaches into the box again, pulls out a second item, not another fruit, a silver spoon, no bowl, no tea, just the spoon. She dips it into a pouch at her side. You can't see what's inside. Then she lifts it to your lips. On it a paste, pale green, glossy, with little flecks of something darker. You open your mouth. You're not supposed to, but you do. She feeds it to you. The taste at first is bitter, then sweet, then it burns. Not like spice, like memory. Your eyes water. Your throat tightens. Your skin flushes. And just like that you feel exposed, from the inside, like she's peeled you, too. She places the spoon back in the pouch and finally speaks. Describe the lychee, she says. You blink, not a trick question, but not a simple one, either. You say the first thing that rises, it tasted like something stolen. Her eyes narrow, she nods. Once, then she says, what did you feel when it touched your mouth? You answer without thinking, like it had touched someone else first. She smiles. It is not kind. She places the lid back on the box, stands, leaves. No other words. The test is over. You sit there. The juice on your lips, the taste in your throat, the knowing in your gut. You have passed, but you feel failed. That night, you're not returned to your bedchamber. You're taken to a smaller room, octagonal. Red walls, low ceiling, cushions instead of beds. Inside 3 other girls. You recognize none of them, but they recognize you. One nods, another bows slightly. They've heard, or seen. You lie on the cushion farthest from the lantern. You don't speak. No one does. But the air smells faintly of lychee, as if someone keeps the test nearby. Always. The next day, you're summoned to the palate chamber. Yes, palate. Like taste. Like testing. It's shaped like a tongue. Rounded. Slightly tapered at the end. Inside, a eunuch holds a scroll. He calls your name. Not your real one. Your new one. Evening lychee. Of course. He reads a list. Your flavor profile. Your scent notes. Your pairing affinities. Your edible tolerances. Your texture reactions. It sounds like a wine tasting, but it's you. They record your preferences based on how you reacted to the fruit. They say your mouth twitched. They say your pupils dilated. They say your pulse stuttered on the third chew. It's all data now. You are data, a profile, a commodity. They give you a tongue scraper and a scroll. You're told to cleanse twice a day. Not for hygiene, for precision. Every taste from now on must register truth. Desire, fear, pleasure, disgust. All recorded, all calibrated. A mouth that lies is worse than a girl who speaks. They say. so you learn how to taste like you mean it. That evening, you're given another lychee. In private, you peel it yourself this time. The skin flakes and the flesh quivers. You bite, you close your eyes, and wonder who's watching now and how long until they ask you to taste them. They take you there just before dusk. Not through the main corridors, but along a narrow, sloped passage carved beneath the Pavilion of Harmony. The kind of hallway that makes you walk sideways, shoulders nearly brushing lacquered walls, air thick with a smell you can't name, something between sandalwood and fear. You're not told where you're going here, but your ankles already know. They tense with every echo of your own footfall. Your breath shortens in anticipation. Your fingers twitch, instinctively curling inward like petals shrinking from dusk. When the doors open, the light nearly blinds you, because the Chamber of Grace is not dim. It blazes, not with candles, but with oil lamps hung behind rice-skin panels, casting a soft, diffused glow that turns everything golden and unreal, like you've stepped into a painting that might smear if you breathe too hard. The room is circular, no chairs, no furniture, only cushions arranged in a spiral on the floor cream. Blush. Pale lavender, like someone tried to summon a god and forgot what they wanted to ask. You are not alone. 7 other girls kneel. Perfect posture, bare feet. Robes adjusted just so enough to reveal the curve of a wrist. The suggestion of collarbone, but not an inch more. You join them. The eunuch behind you says only one word. Still, you obey. The fan in your hand is warm. You hold it just above your knee, slightly open, tilted at 47 degrees. That's the rule. The angle is important. Too flat and you look disinterested. Too high and you seem calculating. Exactly 47 means attentive, pliable, rare. You're being watched, but not from the door, not from the side, from the walls. They look smooth white plaster painted with subtle patterns of clouds and cranes. But if you stare too long, you see at tiny holes, the size of a teardrop, drilled at irregular intervals, covered by paper-thin shells of mica, nearly invisible unless the light hits just right. Someone is behind those walls. Someone's... You feel it in your spine, the crawling sensation, like a moth dancing along your shoulder blades. Not physical, psychological. You want to move, scratch, fidget, breathe louder. You do none of that. You pose, because that's what this is. A silent audition. They don't want to see how you walk or sing or bow. They want to see how you hold beauty without leaking. No sweat, no shake, no hunger, no fear, only form. After 20 minutes, one girl collapses, quietly, gracefully. She doesn't fall like someone fainting. She folds, like silk, like a robe with no more body left in it. 2 eunuchs appear. They take her away without a word. You hear the rustle of her silk robe as it drags across the floor, leaving a faint smudge, a curve, like a comma. No one acknowledges it. You want to, but you've learned. Grace is the art of non-reacting. Then something worse happens. A bell rings. Not loudly. Just once. A soft metallic chime. And with it, the girls around you shift slightly. Their fans turn. Their heads tilt. Their shoulders pull back a 1/4 inch. So you copy them. You don't know why, but you do. Later, you'll learn. The bell signals a viewer's presence. Someone important has stepped behind the mica screen. They're watching now, and they want something. Not action, not seduction, not performance. They want restraint. They want stillness that feels loud. You feel a drop of sweat roll between your shoulder blades. It travels too fast. You pray it doesn't soak the robe, because stains are remembered. One girl was removed last week for a single damp armpit. That's what they whispered in the foot massage queue. The bell chimes again. 2 notes, a command. All fans lower in unison. You follow. Hands on thighs, spine erect, chin dipped. A new light enters the chamber. Not warm, not gold. Blue. It spills from a lattice in the ceiling you hadn't noticed before, and suddenly everything shifts. The room becomes lunar. Your skin turns porcelain. Your robe becomes smoke. Your lips, stained plum earlier, now gleam like crushed berries under frost. You realize the light isn't decorative. It's diagnostic. A test. The kind used by certain healers and by the palace's deeper networks to reveal flaws invisible under normal lighting. Creases, patches, bruises. the ghost of a scar, the memory of disobedience. It's a truth lamp, and you sit inside it now, completely exposed. You're not sure which version of you the watcher prefers, the golden you or this blue one, this X-ray doll. The light disappears, the door opens, the eunuch reappears. He calls one name, not yours, but you still flinch. The girl who rises is tall, slender. Her robe is watercoloured and flows like it's never touched skin before. She doesn't look smug, just aware. She follows the eunuch, disappears into the corridor, and the rest of you remain. Still, that night, they let you eat. First time in 2 days, you're brought to the soft room where food is served not in bowls, but on folded silks. Each girl gets a plate the size of her palm. Yours contains 1 candied lotus root, 3 pomegranate seeds, a spoonful of rice soaked in almond milk, and a slice of pickled ginger shaped like a smile. You're told to chew slowly. Count to 12 between swallows, not because digestion, because discipline. You follow, but as you reach the ginger, you hesitate, because it smells like the lychee from before. And you realize every flavor here is coded. This isn't food, it's feedback. Someone tasted you during the test, and now they're adjusting your profile. Your next question becomes terrifyingly simple. Will they ever feed you something you didn't earn? As you return to your chamber, you pass a doorway slightly ajar. You see only a flicker, a slipper, a smear of red on a cushion, a pair of veiled figures turning away, and then a whisper. She didn't bow her breath. She blinked too soon. You walk faster. You don't blink. In the quiet of your sleeping mat, beneath a net of rose-threaded gauze, you finally let your jaw unclench. Your fan rests beside you. Your lips still taste like plum and silence. And before you sleep, one image lingers. Yourself under blue light. No skin, no shield. Just performance with no audience you'll ever meet. The mattress is still warm when you lie down. That's the first thing you notice. Not the silks, not the gauze netting, not even the light drizzle tapping against the lattice window like a polite ghost. The warmth, residual, deep, like someone had just left, or hadn't left at all. You glance at the eunuch folding your robes. His back is stiff, his hands precise. He places the slippers beside the sleeping mat like he's setting a shrine, then bows, then leaves. You're alone, except you're not. The chamber is called the chrysanthemum room. Supposedly, that's because of the pattern carved into the ceiling. But you know better. It's because that's where they buried the girl who had this bed before you. They don't say her name, only that she displeased the rhythm of the fan. Not a scandal, not a betrayal, just an offbeat. A single incorrect flutter of the wrist during an incense ceremony. The emperor apparently didn't notice, but the women behind the screens did. They always do. You pull the silk coverlet to your chest. It smells like steamed herbs and something fainter underneath like pressed petals left too long between pages. You shift. The mattress makes no sound. The cotton has been pounded flat from decades of perfect posture. You could lie here and never leave a dent. You press your face into the pillow. It smells sweet, stale, intimate. You freeze. It still holds the shape of someone else's head, not metaphorically. The pillow dips, not quite cratered, but unmistakably hollow, like a memory you didn't ask to inherit. You close your eyes, but that's worse, because that's when the voices begin. They're not loud. They're not even language at first, just hums, breaths. One slow exhale, one sigh like silk tearing. Then they start to form. Soft syllables, shaped by lips that aren't there. Hold the fan lower. He prefers the left cheek turned. Never make noise when he buttons his robe. You open your eyes. The room is unchanged, still pale, still golden, still pin-drop quiet. But now the air tastes different, like peach skin peeled with a dull knife, like sorrow steamed into linen. You don't sit up. You don't run, because somewhere beneath the veil of dread, you understand something painful and sacred. These are not hauntings. They're instructions. Passed down the only way they're allowed to survive, from mouth to pillow, from breath to thread, from girl to girl to girl. You whisper back, not with words, with breath. You mimic the rhythm, one sigh, one hum, one stillness, and something shifts. The pillow warms again, but this time it's gentle, welcoming. You let your body soften, let your spine melt, and for the first time since you arrived in this silken prison, you sleep not to escape, but to connect. You dream in fragments of lacquered combs catching in unfamiliar hair, of ink spilled over a fan mid-performance, of a girl kneeling with her arms outstretched, holding a bowl of peaches so still that a bee lands on her lip and she doesn't move. You wake to find your own hand outstretched, palm open, empty, but still trembling slightly, as if it had been holding something invisible all night. The next morning, your attendant arrives with a new robe. It's heavier than the last, deep violet, lined with white fox fur along the collar. That's strange. You've never seen fur here. When you ask softly, without eye contact, the attendant answers, it belonged to Spring Brush. She earned the fur after her 6th summoning. Then she drowned herself in the well of cooling. You pause. Why give it to me? She shrugs. Because her size matches yours. That's all. As if bodies were puzzle pieces. As if her life was a robe that simply needed a new hanger. You run your hand along the fur. It's soft. Too soft. And as you wear it, you realize it smells like sleep. That same ghost pillow scent. She's here, with you, on you, inside you. That night, a letter appears, placed neatly on your pillow, sealed with red wax, stamped with a chrysanthemum. Inside a poem, not signed, not addressed, just written. Delicate brushstrokes, trembling in places, as if written with a bruised wrist. It reads, he doesn't love, he observes. Be still, little mirror, let him see only himself. You don't cry, there's no point. Tears are not part of your training, but you fold the poem carefully, slip it into your sleeve, and add one brushstroke of ink to the inside of your robe, your first private mark. A moth, wing bent, eye open. Later that week, you hear whispers in the bathhouse that the Emperor touched a girl's wrist too long, that she was made to sleep in his personal chamber, that she emerged 3 days later and asked to become a kitchen servant. They let her. She never danced again. The ghosts do not leave. They grow, night by night. One sings a lullaby you've never heard. One hums scales on the threshold of your ear. One simply breathes beside you, in perfect rhythm, until you fall asleep. You don't fear them. You thank them, because no one else is allowed to speak. And in this world, whispers are the only mercy. Before you sleep on the 7th night, you press your lips against the pillow's curve, and you whisper back, I'm listening, and you swear. For just one moment it whispers back. It's barely dawn when they wake you. No bell this time. Just a rustle of your curtain, and the silhouette of a eunuch holding a tray that isn't steaming. On it a comb, a single lotus petal, and a cloth-wrapped bundle shaped like a mouth that's forgotten how to smile. Today is selection. But they don't say that word. They say presentation, like a fruit at a market, like a scroll offered for inspection, like a weapon unsheathed and passed around at court for polite gasps and practiced awe. You bathe in silence. The water is cold, not icy, not cruel, but clinical. It doesn't comfort. It strips. The attendant scrubs your skin with muslin soaked in rice water and peach vinegar. She mutters a chant you're not supposed to hear. You do anyway. It's not in Mandarin. It's not even meant for you. It's for the woman you used to be, the one who must fully dissolve today. When they dress you, they start with the underlayer's gauze, then muslin, then a mesh silk that leaves your arms looking ghostly, like you're still fading in. Then the outer robe, gold, of course, but not shiny, matte gold, like the colour of regret polished thin. The hem is embroidered with moths again, but now they're facing upward, as if trying to escape. You're told to walk barefoot to the Hall of Petals. The ground is cold stone. It soaks into your soles. Good. It keeps you alert. The hall is not what you imagined. No audience, no music, no throne. Just a long rectangular room, floor covered in plum blossom petals, each one arranged by hand in a swirling pattern that you must not disturb. You realize this only after your first step, when a eunuch sharply inhales and a girl behind you stifles a gasp. You've crushed a petal. The shame floods up your body before the echo finishes. You fix your step, realign your posture, and continue. 20 girls walk with you, all veiled, all silent. You feel less like sisters now, more like sacrificial offerings. One eunuch walks before you, another behind, and at the far end of the room, on a raised platform, he waits. You don't see his face. You're not allowed to look directly at him yet, but you feel him. The weight of his gaze isn't personal. It's not warm. It's not even curious. It's like sunlight on glass, flat, wide, and indiscriminate. He watches like someone reading a weather report. Useful, predictive, replaceable. Then the fan arrives, carried by two attendants in robes stitched with gold wire that catches in the candlelight like threads pulled from the sun. They place it on a pedestal in front of him, the golden fan. It's heavy, they say, lined with ivory, balanced so precisely it can be tilted by the weight of a sigh. You line up before it. No one explains the rules, but you've heard them whispered. Each girl approaches one at a time, kneels, unveils, performs 3 gestures. 1 bow of the breath, 1 offering of the fan, 1 stillness. If the emperor tilts the fan left, it means you are granted. If he tilts it right, you are passed over. If it doesn't move at all, you are unknown. And unknown is the most dangerous of all. Because unknown girls are often sent back to the registry of touches, to be retitled, retrained, reformed. Some return, most disappear. Your name is 3rd on the list. You hear it called. Not your voice, not your breath. Just sound carved into the air and offered like an afterthought. You walk forward, step by step. Your robe whispers across the petals like a lie. You kneel, lower your veil, hold the fan, and wait. He does not tilt immediately. You feel the pause stretch long, thin, tight as a thread about to snap. Then left, slight, deliberate. You've been chosen, not claimed, not summoned, but selected for holding, like a porcelain vase set on a higher shelf. You rise with practiced grace. You do not smile, but you allow your shoulder to soften just enough for the watcher behind the mica screen to note it. A mark of pleasure, measured. You return to the side wall. You're now in the granted section. You're now visible. The next girl does not receive a tilt. The fan remains still. The air does not move. Her silence grows heavier by the second. When she stands, her legs wobble. She bites her cheek. She knows, and you all know, because the eunuchs don't let her return to the line. They escort her to a side door, the one veiled with black silk. You never see her again. You do not even remember her face. That's the system. Selection, rejection, evaporation. After the last girl is judged, the eunuchs bring forward a bowl of scented oil and offer it to the emperor. He dips 1 finger in, traces it down the spine of the fan. You see the mark glisten, then fade, then vanish. They will do this again next month, with a different fan, with different girls. The ritual is not for choosing favourites. It's for reminding you that favour is temporary, like warmth in a silk bed, or a name whispered through a pillow. You're sent to the room of congratulations. It is small. It is windowless. It contains nothing but a sweet tea set and a mirror. Each of you must sit alone for 5 minutes, to reflect, to receive, to settle into your new designation. You do as you're told. You stare into the mirror. Your face looks calmer than it feels. Your lips, painted peach. Your eyes, lined in ash. Your skin, dusted with powdered rice. You look like someone who has won something, but it doesn't feel like winning. It feels like suspension, like being chosen to sit quietly in a display case, to be dusted, admired, rot-proofed, until further notice. You sip the tea. It's bitter. You don't ask what's in it. But later that night, when your limbs feel heavier and your mouth tastes like chrysanthemum and iron, you wonder, was it a sedative, a reward, or just a way to make you sleep without dreaming? That night, back in your bedchamber, the pillow no longer smells like her. It smells like you now, but fainter, like the beginning of a ghost. They do not call it a summoning. They say, simply, you will be shown, like a treasure, like an exhibit, like something that shines in low light, but cannot touch the air for long. You're bathed again, more thoroughly this time. Even the soles of your feet are scrubbed with a paste made of ground lotus and powdered pearl. Your ears are rinsed with rose water, your fingernails painted pale gold, then rubbed nearly bare so the shimmer feels more like a memory than decoration. They bind your arms loosely this time, not in fabric. but in gesture, hands folded, fingers curved as if cradling a moth. You're told not to flinch, no matter what. The room is smaller than you imagined. Not grand, not echoing. It smells of old lacquer, sweet wine turned sour, and the sharp sting of camphor oil that burns the back of your throat even as it settles in your hair. 2 eunuchs wait inside. They do not look at you. One lights a stick of incense with a tremor in his hand. The other adjusts the curtain to the right of the dais. Neither speaks. Then a third man enters. Not the emperor, a mirror carrier. He sets a silver mirror delicately cracked at the edge on a lacquer stand beside the dais, faces it toward the curtain. You realize he will see you reflected first. As if your face is too crude to meet without rehearsal. You're told to kneel. You do. Your knees ache from the repetition, but you barely notice. You're too busy watching the curtain's edge. It stirs, just slightly, and then he emerges, not like a god, not like a king, like an old man carried in the mouth of history, still chewing. He's not what you imagined. He's smaller, thinner. His robes hang off him like silk on a drying rack. They glitter, but his skin does not. His hands shake, one finger longer than the others, stained with red ink, clutches the arm of the eunuch who leads him forward. He smells like camphor and rot, the kind of rot you find in a fruit that looks fine until touched, the kind that hides in the center, wet, sweet, wrong. His eyes are wet but not teary, misted, like he's been looking too long at something burning. He sits. It takes a while. The eunuchs shift the robe, smooth the pleats, adjust his hand so it rests on the tiger claw armrest. He breathes shallow and loud. Then, finally, his gaze falls on you. No nod, no gesture, just attention, the way the sun hits the side of a closed door. You bow your breath, you keep your head dipped, but you feel it, his stare. It doesn't linger on your face or your hands. It falls directly on your mouth. You've been trained for this. You lower your chin slightly more. You offer the smallest upward flick of the eyes. A micro smile, a yielding breath. You are reflecting, not expressing. He leans forward. One finger lifts, not toward you, toward the mirror. He looks at your reflection. He studies it like a page in a book he no longer understands but remembers loving once. Then he does something unexpected. He laughs, not cruelly, not loudly. Just a short, sharp sound, like a cup being set down too hard. The eunuchs flinch. One whispers something you can't hear. The emperor lifts his hand, holds it in the air, then closes it, like he's catching an insect. You don't move. You're still. You're hollow. You're held. And then, the moment breaks. He leans back. His robe shifts. A sound like dry leaves. A whiff of old musk. He closes his eyes, and that's it. You are dismissed. No word, no fan, no gesture. Just a soft clap, and 2 eunuchs take you gently under the arms like you might shatter from your own breath and guide you backward through the curtain. You're not allowed to turn your back to him. Not until the doors close behind you. Outside, you feel something strange. Not pride, not fear, not even relief. You feel untouched, like you were offered to something holy, and it simply forgot to devour you. You're taken to the chamber of cooling, where no one speaks, where girls are placed like glass beads on silk, left to sit in silence until the shaking stops. The girl beside you is weeping soundlessly. Her back is perfectly straight. Her face is turned slightly away, but the tears keep falling suspended, slow, like they don't want to stain the rug. No one comforts her. No one comments. Because everyone has done it, and everyone knows that being seen by the emperor is not the same as being chosen. It's like the sun touched you, but only to confirm you cast no shadow. That night, your robe is taken and burned. You're given a new one, same cut, same fabric, slightly deeper gold, but the collar is tighter, and the hem no longer swirls when you turn. You've advanced. Technically, you're now a provisional ornament, not a consort, not yet, but no longer invisible. You exist in the index now. You have a number. You will be rotated. You will be summoned again and again, until either he speaks your name aloud, or stops noticing you exist. You lie in bed, the camphor still in your nostrils, the rot behind your eyelids. You remember the way his eyes had no hunger, only habit, like watching birds fly across the same sky, year after year, and no longer caring if they land. You breathe in, the pillow smells like orchids and wax. You breathe out, and wonder how many girls has he watched disappear, and how many still wait, silently blooming, beneath the skin of this rotting kingdom. The performance begins before you know it's happening. You've been summoned to the hall of listening, a wide, high-ceilinged room, built like a silken echo chamber, where movement whispers louder than words, and sound behaves like smoke lingering, delicate, shaped by breath. You're not performing, you're watching. And that, somehow, feels worse. The audience is veiled, the emperor behind a screen, the eunuchs stationed along the perimeter like painted shadows, and you seated on your knees, palms facing upward, head bowed, part of a silent semicircle of girls who've been marked as provisional but promising. The lights are soft, lanterns hung inside fish bladder drums. They glow with that milky, sour hue that makes every face look a little haunted. Then she enters, the dancer. They say her name is Fifth Radiance, but no one knows if that's real. She wears silver, not white, not gold. A rebellion already. Her sleeves are longer than standard, her shoes softer, her eyes painted heavier than court norm blink too slowly. She moves like someone who knows she'll never be punished. She dances alone. No music, no signal, just the sound of her robe hissing against itself and the faint, deliberate exhale of her every step. It is hypnotic. You've seen dancers before, twirls, bows, silken spins that resemble a ritual more than a story. But Fifth Radiance tells a story. Her movement starts slow, like petals floating in tea, then quicken sleeves slicing air, hips turning with a precision that feels illegal. She lifts one foot and holds it mid-air, longer than is comfortable. You hear someone's breath catch. It might be yours. Then it happens. The tilt, not of the fan, of the air, like someone behind the screen leaned forward a little too eagerly. And Fifth Radiance sees it. She feels it, because she pivots. Too soon. Before the eunuchs ring the bell, before the signal for her finale, she moves toward the screen, not directly, but in that sly, liquid curve that dancers use to court the edge of what's acceptable. A sleeve flick, a half step forward, a deeper bow than permitted, or she's asking to be chosen before her number is called. The room goes still. Not just quiet. Still. Even the flames in the lanterns seem to freeze. Then a chime. Not from the eunuchs. From behind the screen. Sharp. High. Metallic. A command. Fifth Radiance stops mid-step. Mid-pose. Her body freezes in a position that looks like grace, but feels like fracture. You feel it. Like a bird suddenly remembering it has no wings. The eunuchs move fast. Not with violence. With precision. Two emerge from the corners. They do not touch her. They simply stand on either side and whisper. You can't hear the words, but you see what they do to her shoulders. She nods once. Twice. Then bows. Not to the emperor. To the girls in the semicircle. To you. And she leaves. No music. No curtain. No scream. Just soft footsteps on lacquered wood. And a silence that pulses behind them like blood in a bruise. The rest of the night is performed anyway. A singer recites a poem with a voice like a crushed flute. A trio of girls performs a coordinated fan routine. It's flawless, but forgettable. You clap. Quietly. Because that's protocol. But in your head, all you see is the bend in Fifth Radiance's wrist. The moment before the chime. The inhale that didn't get exhaled. That night, in the bathhouse. No one speaks her name, but her absence ripples through the steam. You feel it in the way one girl scrubs her ankle too hard, in the way another girl drops her robe facing the wall instead of the group. Someone has etched a moth into the condensation on the mirror. Its wings are burning. The next morning, you wake with a strange gift on your pillow, a single silver-threaded tassel. No note, no explanation, just silk, soft, delicate, slightly frayed at the end. You tuck it into your sleeve without thinking. Later, you find it smells faintly of cinnamon. You ask no questions, because you understand Fifth Radiance danced too soon, not too boldly, not too fiercely, just too early. In the palace, There is a choreography to desire, to anticipation, to ripening. Girls are not meant to bloom when they feel the sun. They're meant to wait for the curtain call, wait for the bell, wait for the watcher behind the screen to want what he's already owned 1,000 times. To be beautiful on schedule, you've learned. You fold your sleeves more slowly now. You blink less. You keep the silver tassel in your pocket, not your hair. And every time you breathe before entering a hall, you whisper her name 5th radiance. Not to summon her, to remember what not to be, but still, in your dreams, you see her pirouette one last time, spinning not for the emperor, not for the court, but for herself, in a chamber no one else can enter, where the music plays forever, and no one is watching. They call it a rest day, but no one rests, no bells, no summons, no training sessions, just drifting, like fish in a tank after the glass has been tapped one too many times. You sit in the pavilion of folding, where girls embroider handkerchiefs with symbols no one uses anymore, plum blossoms for melancholy, lotus stems for submission, moths for being watched and not believed. You're on your 3rd silk square. You've pricked your finger twice. Each time, you fold the blood under the embroidery. That's what they teach you. Nothing escapes the fabric. A girl across from you, her name is Small Chestnut, starts to hum. Not loud, just enough to remind you that she still has a voice. It's the kind of song that used to be sung at market stalls, something about garlic buns and red bean sweets and boys with crooked teeth. It's too cheerful, too real. Another girl Pine Smoke tilts her head and offers a warning glance. Small Chestnut smiles back. With teeth, you all freeze. Not visibly, just inside. Because everyone knows girls who smile too easily are marked. It's called to be glazed. You've seen it happen. They don't punish you with whips. They don't scream. They simply call you to the room of refinement. And when you come back, your smile doesn't. You tell yourself she'll stop. She doesn't. She leans closer to her embroidery and adds something strange, a small shape that doesn't belong. A rabbit, maybe, or a knife. Pine Smoke taps her own fan once. A signal. Then they go quiet. The next day, Small Chestnut is reassigned. Not formally, just moved. No longer sits near you. No longer eats at your table. You see her once through a lattice walking stiffly with 2 eunuchs down a blue-tiled corridor. Her mouth is closed. Her robe is unbelted and her sleeves hang as if they've been dampened. You never hear her hum again. The others take note. They begin to adjust. Subtle things. Smiles that curve only at the corners. Laughter that is soundless. Jokes told only with the eyes. They don't speak ill of Small Chestnut, but they don't embroider rabbits anymore. That week, a new robe is delivered to your room. It's lovely. Cream-coloured, lined with peony thread. But what catches your breath is what's pinned inside the left sleeve, a folded square of paper, so thin, it might be rice skin. You open it when no one's watching. It contains one phrase, she who learns to smile in silence. Rules. There's no signature, no wax seal, no threat, just truth, folded into your skin. You carry it for 3 days, hidden in your sash. Then you burn it over the oil lamp in the Hall of Cosmetics, one corner at a time. Not because you're disloyal, because you've memorized it. At night, the whispers return, but not from the ghosts, from the living. They hover like steam above the sleeping mats. Jade Bell smeared her lipstick on purpose. Mirror Feather turned her robe inside out. Someone saw Crimson Reed kissing her own reflection. None of these girls are punished, but none of them are selected for service that week. In the palace, punishment is not always removal. Sometimes it's invisibility, which is worse. One morning, you're chosen for tea duty, not for the Emperor, for Lady Silkstring, one of the older concubines, who hasn't seen the inside of the main hall in 5 years. Her chamber smells like nail polish and mildew. She sits in shadow, robe slipping from one shoulder. Her voice is honeyed vinegar. I remember when girls knew how to bow without bending, she says. You don't answer. You bow your breath. She studies you, then laughs. It's not cruel, just tired. You're lost, she says. You've already started folding. You frown. Barely. She sees it anyway. Your fan hand is tighter. She whispers. Your smile ends at the nose. Your voice hasn't cracked in a week. Good. Very good. You serve her tea. She doesn't drink it, but you're rewarded anyway. With a single pin, gold, shaped like a moth, you're told to wear it at the nape of your neck. Not visible, but present. You wonder, is it protection or target? You pin it anyway. A week later, one of the girls is caught whispering her real name into her pillow. No one hears her, except the girl she shares her mat with. And that girl, she reports it. That night, you hear them arguing behind the bathhouse wall. Only one is crying. The next morning, both are gone. Their mats replaced, their teacups removed, their names unspoken. It's as if they were errors in calligraphy, scrubbed, redrawn, forgotten. You stop whispering at night, even to the ghosts. Then, one evening, you find a tiny embroidery on your sash you don't remember sewing. It's subtle, just 3 threads shaped into a spiral. You touch it with your fan hand, inside, stitched so finely you almost miss it. Do not let silence soften your teeth. You smile, not with lips, with your whole body. You smile like a mirror, like a still pond, like something no one can prove. And you walk into the next room, robes folded perfectly, shoulders relaxed, mouth beautifully sealed, carrying every secret they thought you didn't notice. You forget the day of the week, not because you're distracted, because they stopped telling you. There is no calendar in the inner court, only rotations, only bells, only summons that arrive like mild fevers sudden, gentle but impossible to ignore. You bathe again, not because you're dirty, because it's time. They rub your skin with orchid oil. The scent is syrupy like sugar steeped in bone broth. You used to flinch. Now you let them rub. The oil is massaged into your wrists, behind your knees, just beneath your collarbone. Pulse points, the woman says softly. So you remember where to keep your secrets. When they braid your hair, they twist in threads of gold and red root. One for submission, one for vibrancy. You ask no questions, because you've learned curiosity is ungainly. It wrinkles the face. That morning, someone calls you by a name you don't recognize. Cloud fragrance, the eunuch says. You blink. He frowns, then glances at the scroll. Oh, he murmurs. They updated your designation. You nod. You pretend you knew. But that night, when you return to your chamber, you open your chest box and find your old robe, the one with your previous name stitched inside. Evening lychee. The moth-shaped pin still glints at the collar. You touch it, just once. And suddenly your old smile rises. It doesn't fit your face anymore. You fold the robe again. You place it deeper into the box. You do not cry. Not because you are strong, because you don't quite remember what crying feels like. At dinner, someone says the wrong poem during the rice offering. She corrects herself halfway through. No one comments. But the girl beside her shifts her bowl slightly to the left, a silent gesture that means, you'll be reassigned. You wonder, idly, how many meals you've eaten since your arrival. You can't remember what the first one tasted like. You only remember the texture of obedience, the smooth pressure of rice between tongue and palate, the click of chopsticks resting in perfect symmetry. Flavor is an afterthought. The mirrors begin to soften. You first notice it in the powder room. You lean toward the bronze plate on the wall and see your reflection. Delayed. Only half a second. But enough. You blink. Your image doesn't. You tilt your head. It lags. You try to speak, just to test, but no sound emerges. Only breath. Only performance. You tell yourself it's the lighting, or the angle, or the oil on your skin blurring the metal. But when you return later that night alone, forbidden you try again. This time, your reflection smiles first. Just slightly, as if it's learned you, as if it no longer needs you to begin. The days grow silkier, more slippery. You wake to a robe you don't remember choosing. You hum a tune you've never learned. You kneel automatically in the garden of poised stillness and realize your fan hand has adjusted its tilt without instruction. A girl asks you how long you've been here. You open your mouth, you close it, you smile. With teeth, with breath you don't know anymore. She nods. That's enough. You are chosen for whisper duty. It's not what it sounds like. You stand beside a silk screen and recite the day's proverbs for the emperor, but not to him. You say them to the wall. He listens behind it. Sometimes he sighs. Sometimes he coughs. Sometimes you think you hear a laugh. One day, you finish early, and as you're turning to leave, a scroll flutters from the edge of the screen. You pick it up, unmarked. Inside, the girl who remembered herself was the one we buried. No signature, no explanation. Just a warning written like a lullaby. You start to forget your own handwriting. You try one night after lights out, using a brush and a fragment of linen torn from your hem. You write your original name, but it doesn't feel right in your hand. The strokes come too fast, or too slow. You've written dozens of other names lately, all provisional, all fleeting, all real for someone else. None of them yours. You burn the cloth. The smoke smells like peach pits. You sleep through the scent. Then one day, they bring you to the Chamber of Echoes. You've never heard of it. It's shaped like a spiral narrowing as you walk deeper. The walls are padded with silk. The floors are soft moss. The air smells of cold rice and candle wax. There are no people, just voices, faint, endless, echoing. Your own, mostly. Fragments of every performance you've given. Every line whispered through a fan. Every bow, every hum, every breath, looping, surrounding. You stand in the center, the light dims, and you hear yourself say, I belong here. I am what they made. I am soft enough to survive. I am soft enough to survive. I am soft enough. The echoes continue, until you forget you're hearing them at all. That night, your chamber is too quiet. No ghost breath, no old whispers, just you, and the scent of orchid oil. Thick on your pillow, you lift it, find nothing underneath. No letter, no comb, no trace. Just a small, dried moth, its wings curled inward like a secret trying not to escape. You hold it in your palm until sleep claims you. And in the dream that follows, you remember your mother's face but not her name. The invitation arrives at dawn, folded like a lotus bud. No wax seal, no title. Just a silk ribbon tied so tightly you almost don't notice the moth wing caught beneath the knot. Pale, cracked, inside, 2 words. You're ready. You don't need to ask what for. You've heard the whispers for weeks now, about the Feast of Petal Silence, hosted every season in the lacquered hall, where courtiers and concubines dine not with mouths but with gesture, where the emperor sometimes watches but never eats. You dress in quiet layers, a robe the colour of bruised magnolia, a sash stitched with pearls too small to be real, hair pinned with a fan-shaped comb, lacquered in bloodroot red, one of the hall's permitted colours. No scent today, just rice powder and sweat. They escort you through 3 doors and 2 corridors, past the humming birdsong panels, past the lacquered screen painted with cranes disemboweling foxes. You feel your stomach flutter, not from fear, from emptiness. You haven't eaten since yesterday's lotus broth. You didn't realize how sharp that silence inside your body had grown. The lacquered hall smells divine. That's the trap. Roasted duck dripping with plum wine, honeyed fish glistening on silver trays, rice steamed in bamboo leaves, the aroma rising like a memory you want to keep. And in the center, a long, curved table, black lacquer, inlaid with fragments of mother-of-pearl teeth. Yes, teeth. You wonder whose. 12 girls kneel on one side, 12 eunuchs stand behind them silent, hands gloved, expressions unreadable. Your seat is 6th from the left. You sit, tuck your feet beneath you, fan in lap, palms to thighs, eyes down. You're given no bowl, no chopsticks, just a series of small plates, each one bearing a perfect, glistening bite, a sugared sparrow heart, a cube of cold jellyfish layered with green pepper threads, a strip of beef lacquered in persimmon glaze, a single grape sliced and sprinkled with powdered pearl. Your mouth waters. You do not move, because no one is eating. Not yet. The bell rings. A single chime. The eunuchs step forward in unison and place napkins folded like drowning butterflies onto your laps. Another bell. The girl to your right lifts her fan, tilts her head, lowers her gaze, opens her mouth slightly, then closes it, as if tasting a memory. She does not touch the food, but her performance is flawless. The girl beside her mirrors it slower, more reverent, but no more edible. You begin to understand. This is not a meal. It's a choreographed starvation. You're to act as though you are feasting, savouring, tasting, without so much as a crumb entering your body. Your turn. You raise your fan, lift your sleeve, lean forward slowly. The sparrowheart steams faintly. You inhale, exhale, smile. You mimic the motion of chewing, of delight, of satisfaction. You close your eyes as if overwhelmed. Somewhere behind the screen, someone breathes out sharply, approval, amusement. You'll never know. The girl at the far end breaks rhythm. She reaches for her plate, not with grace, with hunger. Her fingers touch the jellyfish, only for a second. But the sound, the wet click of her nail against porcelain echoes like a sin. The room freezes. Her eunuch bows deeply and gently removes her plate. No one speaks. No one scolds. But the next course does not come for her. She's not dismissed, but her tray is not refilled. She remains kneeling, hands empty, eyes forward, a reminder. More dishes arrive. You lose count. You begin to forget whether you're full or famished. You perform the taste of lemon without puckering. You mime the weight of duck skin on your tongue. You imagine the crunch of lotus seed with such intensity your molars twitch. And yet you do not eat. You cannot, because eating would mean you're real, and real girls get erased. Halfway through the meal, a new plate appears, a peeled lychee. Of course. You glance down at it, the skin already removed, the flesh exposed, soft, translucent, dripping with its own sweetness. It glows slightly in the lamplight, like a secret whispered too loud. You want it, not for taste, for anchor, for reminder, for rebellion. But you do not move. Instead, you imagine the peel curling in your hand, the juice stinging your lip. You imagine what it would be like if you chose to eat it, not for performance, but for memory, for self. You don't. Of course you don't. You smile, you exhale, you bow your breath, and the lychee remains untouched, still, waiting. Just like you, when the feast ends, the trays are removed, not one crumb missing. The eunuchs do not bow, they do not smile. They record, somewhere, a scribe notes who paused too long before miming delight, who blinked during the vinegar tasting, who twitched at the fish steam. They know, they always know. As you leave the lacquered hall, your knees ache. Your stomach is a hollow bell. Your lips shine from oil, not food. And the scent of roast duck still lingers in your hair, like a lover who never touched you but still managed to leave bruises. That night, you dream of a banquet where every dish is ash and the only thing you're allowed to swallow is silence. It begins with the smell. You wake not to bells, not to whispers, but to a thick, meaty sweetness rising through the floorboards, like overcooked duck skin or something being boiled that used to be alive and complicated. It's still dark. The moonlight barely kisses the edges of your gauze curtain. You pull it aside and see nothing, just shadows of furniture arranged so precisely it might be punishment. But the scent grows. It coils around your spine, thickens in your throat. You sit up, press your feet to the cool stone, and listen. Footsteps, but not from your wing, not the padded shuffle of concubine slippers, either. Hard soles, bare feet, soft muttering, the servants, the ones you're never meant to see. You've been told the palace is silent after the second bell. A lie. Now you know it breathes beneath the hush. You slide open the lattice door and step into the hall barefoot. You do not light your lantern. You follow the smell. It leads you down the corridor, past the familiar chrysanthemum columns and through a curtain you've never touched before. No guard stops you. You slip downward. The staircase curves like a ribcage, narrowing as you descend, until the walls go from painted wood to cool, sweating stone. You've never felt air like this in the palace. Damp, honest, tired. At the base of the stairs, the corridor splits. Left is a dim hallway with drying racks, robes hung upside down, dripping wine and perfume and sometimes what looks like rust. Right opens into a vast, low-ceilinged chamber where they work. The night servants. They are everywhere. Scrubbing, rinsing, slicing, stitching. Their bodies move like a machine made of regret. Some are girls no older than you. Others women with backs bent like they were taught never to rise and no one speaks above a whisper. You step behind a crate stacked with lacquered trays and watch. A girl pulls a bundle from a basket. She unwraps it gently, reverently, like it's holy. But when the silk falls away, it reveals a robe ripped at the seams, soaked in something too dark for wine. "Another one," the girl mutters. The older woman beside her snorts. At least she didn't bleed on the embroidery this time. They don't speak like you do. There is no poetry, no grace, no metaphor, only fact, stain, stitch, dispose, preserve. You creep closer and press yourself against the wall. There's a scroll pin there, handwritten, faded, oily with fingerprints. It reads, "If you must weep, do it in the kitchen. If you must remember, do it in silence. If you must speak, clean first." You don't know if it's a rule or a prayer. A cart rolls past you, creaking, on it combs, slippers, used napkins, folded perfectly. One napkin is embroidered with a crane. You recognize it. You used it 3 nights ago, during a fan ceremony. You'd wiped the corner of your mouth with it, miming the pleasure of duck skin you hadn't actually eaten, and now here it is, unfolded, stained with pigment from your lips, being wheeled away like evidence from a crime scene no one reported. You feel something sharp press inside your chest. It isn't panic, it's realization. They see everything. You try to leave, but a hand catches your wrist, gentle, calloused. The girl with the cart looks up at you. Her eyes are the colour of smoked tea, her mouth chapped from steam. She doesn't gasp, she doesn't bow, she just says, "You shouldn't be here." You nod, but you don't step back. She studies you. Your cloud fragrance, right. The name hits your ears like a foreign phrase. You nod again. You think that's who you are now. She sighs. "Come with me." You follow. She leads you behind a curtain at the back of the chamber. A door, low, warped wood, opens with a groan like a throat clearing before a confession. Inside silence and shelves, hundreds of them, lined with jars, not herbs, not medicine, fragments. A lock of hair tied with red string, a broken earring, a sash, still twisted in the shape of someone's waist. "This is what's left," the girl says, "of the ones who didn't stay." You look at her. They died. She shrugs. Some. Others just disappeared. Some were renamed so many times they forgot the first. Same thing, really. You step closer. Pick up a jar with a folded fan inside. The paper's still damp. The label says milk petal, 3rd declension. You whisper it aloud. The girl flinches. You shouldn't speak them. She warns. It makes them heavier. She points to a shelf in the corner. An empty spot. Sometimes we find something and don't know who it belonged to. When we do, we leave it there, unnamed, but not forgotten. You glance down at your own sash. Your fan, your comb, all assigned, all impermanent. You imagine your future reduced to a folded handkerchief in a jar labelled unknown. Sweet breath. Second shift. You feel cold. You ask, "Why do you keep these?" The girl answers, "Because the palace doesn't." Later, you find yourself sitting at a table, one that doesn't belong in the palace. It's scratched, wobbly, real. She hands you a bowl, boiled yam and barley, no garnish, no perfume. You eat in silence. The yam burns your tongue slightly, and it's the most honest thing you've tasted in months. She watches you chew. "You girls," she says. "You wear so much silk you forget your meat, too. You don't speak. You swallow. The yam settles in your belly like truth. Before she leads you back, she gives you a square of paper, folded, blank. You're allowed one thing, she says. One thing you still remember that hasn't been choreographed. You write slowly, not your name, not your title. Just "I used to laugh when I burned my tongue." You fold it, hand it to her. She places it on the shelf beside a broken mirror shard and a moth with no wings, then opens the curtain. She walks you up the staircase in silence. At the top, she stops. "You didn't see us," she says. You nod. "You didn't eat that yam." Another nod. "And you don't remember where the door is?" You look her in the eye. "No." You whisper, "I don't remember." She smiles. The first real smile you've seen in weeks. And then she vanishes behind the curtain. Back in your chamber, you lie awake, your belly full, your fingers smelling faintly of vinegar and starch. You close your eyes, and you remember everything, especially the yam, especially the moth, especially the girl who said someone has to remember what the palace forgets. It begins with a breeze, which is absurd, because there are no windows on this floor. The walls are sealed with triple-layered silk. The halls are curved to trap heat, not release it. Air here is not supposed to move, and yet as you kneel in the perfume chamber, brushing crushed saffron onto your sleeves, you feel it a cool thread of wind, winding around your ankle like a whispered name. You glance down, nothing. No crack in the floor, no open door, just a small crease in the wall, half the width of your fan. You shouldn't touch it. So of course, you do. It yields like skin. The panel slides soundlessly inward. Beyond it, darkness. A tunnel, narrower than your shoulders, descending at an angle too steep to be intentional. It smells like wax, and something else, like iron and breath. You step in. The panel closes behind you without a sound. The descent is silent. Your slippers brush against stones smoothed by centuries of wrong footsteps. Torches line the walls unlit, but still warm. Someone has been here. Recently, frequently. The further down you go, the tighter the walls press, till it no longer feels like walking. It feels like being swallowed. At the end of the tunnel, a door, small, carved from dark wood, veined like aged flesh. At its center, a painted moth, wings outspread, body split down the middle, half white, half red. You knock, not because you want to, because your hand lifts without asking. Once, twice. The door opens. Inside the room that isn't on the map, circular, low ceiling, no windows, no lanterns, only a brazier in the center, glowing with red ash. 6 women sit along the walls, all masked, not veiled masked, painted wood, shaped like opera ghosts and river gods and sobbing brides. No two the same. Their robes are plain, unadorned. You recognize none of them, but their posture is perfect, and you understand. Without words, they are not watching you. They are witnessing. One rises. She wears a mask carved like a cracked teacup. She steps forward, holds out a folded robe. You take it. It's heavy, damp at the hem. Inside, you find no embroidery, only one marking a small stitched glyph where the heart should rest. A moth, again. But upside down, you undress. Carefully, you do not feel shame. You feel like fabric being swapped. You put on the robe. She nods, then gestures toward the brazier. You kneel. The heat kisses your thighs, then climbs, then bites. They begin to hum, low, vibrating. It makes your teeth ache. The woman circles you 3 times. On the 4th pass, she pulls a pin from your hair, drops it into the ash. It sparks. You feel something inside you uncurl. She speaks. One phrase. Not Mandarin, not a language you know, but somehow you understand it. This is the body that remembers in silence. You repeat it. Your voice shakes. She continues. This is the mouth that tastes only when asked. You repeat. This is the skin that bleeds only forward. Your knees burn against the stone, but you keep going, because now the humming is rising, and your pulse matches it, and something behind your ribs is unlocking. She places something in your lap. A bowl, carved bone. Inside, a paste the color of dusk. You dip 2 fingers, rub it onto your wrists, your lips, the hollow between collarbones. It's cold, then hot, then numb. You blink, and they are closer now. The women, all of them. Their masks inches from your face. They do not speak, but they tilt their heads, and you feel known. Not adored, not assessed, just witnessed. Fully, without hesitation. Then, from behind the brazier, another door opens, and he enters. Not the emperor, a eunuch, tall, draped in shadow. He holds a mirror. You rise. You step forward. He holds it before you. You look. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, you don't recognize yourself. Your skin is pale gold. Your lips bare. Your eyes wide but hollowed. You look like a shrine offering. Not because you're beautiful, because you're emptied. Everything extraneous has been carved away. Only the ritual remains. You nod. He nods back, then disappears. The women file out, silently. One brushes her fingers against your arm as she passes. You feel a warmth bloom there that has nothing to do with the brazier. You are alone now, but the room feels full. You remove the robe, fold it, place it in the fire. It does not burn, it dissolves, like fog, like memory, like the girl who first followed the breeze. You dress in silence, return the way you came. The tunnel feels shorter now, less like a throat, more like a corridor. You re-emerge behind the perfume wall, slide the panels shut, dust your fingers. No one sees you, no one marks you, no bell rings, but something has shifted. Inside you, around you. You're no longer just a name, you're a vessel, one that has been emptied and filled and sealed. Back in your chamber, a scroll waits, unmarked. Inside, some doors find us only once. You burn it, then sit in silence, and smell your wrists, still tingling, still strange, still yours. You wake with a bruise on your thigh that smells like jasmine. It isn't visible, not at first, but when you sit up slowly, cautiously, you feel the ache bloom just beneath your skin. A quiet reminder, a pressed petal under glass. The room is too bright, not by candlelight or sunbeam, but by clarity. There is no veil between you and the morning now, no incense haze to dull your understanding. You were changed, and now you're expected to pretend otherwise. The robe on the stool is new, cream-coloured, lined in gold thread at the wrists, sewn with a magnolia motif near the hem symbol of subtle power, they say. No one saw it placed here, and yet it fits your shoulders too well to be coincidence. There's a scroll tucked inside the sleeve, no wax seal, no calligraphy, just one word, printed softly in red ink hush. You fold it and place it into your sleeve. You are not surprised. Not anymore. Your feet ache as you walk toward the bathing chamber, a shallow ache, the kind that lives behind the bones, the kind you can't explain with bruises. There is hot water already poured into the basin. Steam curls toward the ceiling like a question you don't know how to ask. You remove the robe, fold it neatly, step in, and the warmth feels too generous, too forgiving. You expect pain, punishment, any confirmation that last night was real. But the water does not sting, it embraces, which makes it worse. You wash slowly, not because you're dirty, but because you don't know what else to do. The oil they gave you, Memory Blossom, is still on your wrists, faint, floral, bitter beneath the sweetness. You scrub it off, then scrub again. You don't stop until your skin glows pink under the lantern light, and even then, you don't stop thinking. By mid-morning, you're called for petal duty in the pavilion of still fragrance. It's a quiet job, sorting dried plum blossoms by size, shade, and curl for sachets you're told will be placed beneath the emperor's pillows. You do not ask why. You know by now that why is a dead end. The girl beside you is new. Her cheeks are too full. Her fingers tremble as she places a pale blossom into the wrong tray. You say nothing. Correction is no longer your job. You just do your part, efficiently, quietly, like someone who survived a season no one acknowledges. At lunch, your bowl is half full, lotus root soup, sticky rice, pickled radish curled into a perfect fan shape. You eat slowly, deliberately. You pretend not to notice when two other girls stare at your magnolia hem. They whisper into their sleeves. You hear only the word veil, but they're wrong. This robe is not a promotion. It's a certificate of passage. You've gone somewhere they haven't. Somewhere that has no stairs, no curtain, only a door that shuts behind you so softly. You don't realize you've been sealed inside. That afternoon, you're given the task of polishing the mirror in the room of still waters. It hasn't been cleaned since Fifth Radiance vanished. The metal is clouded, the frame cracked. You take your cloth, your vinegar, your breath. You kneel, and for an hour, you polish yourself back into clarity. When your reflection returns, it startles you. Not because it's changed, but because it hasn't. Your eyes are yours, your lips the same, only the stillness behind them is different. You try smiling, it works, but it looks learned, like a character you've mastered in a play no one claps for. After dinner, the eunuch leaves a comb on your mat, carved bone, painted with lacquer moths chasing a single crescent moon. There's a note tucked beneath it, not written, stitched, threaded letters along a ribbon's edge. Those who return from the room never speak, but they are heard louder than ever. You run your finger along the thread. It's tight, meticulous, possibly done by the same women who masked you last night, or the same girls who vanished months ago. Maybe this is how they stay, through combs, through thread, through moths with invisible wings. That night, you lie awake. Your chamber smells like steam and chrysanthemum ash. You press your face into your pillow, hoping to find something of yourself still there. Instead, you find a familiar scent, memory blossom, just beneath the linen. Someone reapplied it while you were gone, without permission, or perhaps, with all the permission in the world. You weep, but not loudly, just one tear, collected at the corner of your eye like a bead of dew on lacquer. You do not wipe it. Let the moths take it. Let the room hold it. Let the palace bury it beneath silk. In your dream, you stand in a garden made entirely of combs. They're planted like flowers, some cracked, some still warm. You bend down to touch one, and it whispers your name. Not the name they gave you, not cloud fragrance, not evening lychee, the one from before, the one you'd forgotten. You wake gasping, and for a moment, you remember everything, but only for a moment. Then the perfume returns, and with it, obedience. They don't ask you what happened in the room. They congratulate you instead, not loudly, not officially, just subtly. Your robe is stitched with a tighter hem. The embroidery on your fan is doubled. The girl who used to walk one step behind you now stands a breath to the side. You've moved up, though no one says how, or why, or what that even means. You receive more tea, better bedding, a small comb with your initials carved in rosewood, your current initials, not the ones you first arrived with, and every gift feels like someone tucking a silk hand over your mouth and whispering, "Good girls don't speak." You're brought to the chamber of listening petals twice that week. Not to perform, to sit, to be seen sitting. It's a message. You've become part of the palace's silent backdrop, a living ornament, a success story they never want described. Girls glance at you when they forget they're glancing. One bows too low as you pass. Another murmurs cloud fragrance like it's a prayer she hopes gets answered. And the worst part, it feels good. For a second, until it doesn't. Until you realize that every ounce of respect is built on a version of you that never screamed. You begin noticing things again. The way fruit at breakfast is always sliced into 4, never 5. The way mirrors are wiped in counterclockwise strokes. The way your fingers twitch before you lift a teacup because somewhere, someone taught your muscles that hesitation is ugly. You thought you'd forgotten these things, but they were only buried, and now they resurface, quietly, sharpened. One morning, a moth lands on your pillow. Its wings are half-eaten, the colour of dried milk and ash. It doesn't move when you sit up. You study it. It studies nothing. Its eyes are blank glass, like yours. You whisper. You came back. It flutters once, then dies. At incense duty, you're asked to recite a poem, a small thing, routine. You open your mouth, expecting the words to fall out like silk, but instead, you pause. Not because you forgot, because for one split second, you remember your mother's voice. Not clearly, just the tone, the rhythm she used when calling you to supper, the warmth that curled around your name before the palace burned it. You forget the line. You blink. The room waits. You recover. Recite. Bow. And the moment passes. But later, a eunuch leaves a folded ribbon in your sash. It reads, "Do not let memory stain performance." You tuck it away, not because you agree, because you want to remember who wrote it. That night, a girl is taken from her chamber. You don't know why. You don't ask. But as the curtain falls behind her, you hear her laugh just once. High, beautiful, wrong, and you think that could have been me. That might still be me. The next day, they begin calling you to observe. It's a higher role. You watch the lower girls practice fan dances, tea ceremonies, silence drills. You're not to speak. Just nod. Just correct with gestures. You're told your stillness teaches. They mean it as a compliment, but the phrase sticks in your throat like plum skin. Later, in the bathhouse, one girl approaches you. She bows low, too low, and when she speaks, her voice cracks. How did you do it? You don't ask what she means. You know, the room, the vow, the return. You want to lie. You want to say it was nothing, that it didn't touch you, that it's survivable. Instead, you say, I don't remember. And that's the most honest thing you've said all month. She nods. Tears do not fall, but her breath shakes. She thanks you and walks away. In your chamber, the scent of memory blossom has faded. You wash your robe, you clean your mirror, you brush your hair until the strands lie flat as pressed calligraphy. And still, the quiet inside you feels unsatisfied, like something wants out, like the moth isn't dead, just waiting, feeding. One evening, during veil rotation, you're offered a higher rank. Just one step, a silver border around your collar. You decline. You say you're not ready. The eunuch looks at you strangely, but he doesn't press. He just nods and walks away. That night, you write your name on a piece of tea paper, not cloud fragrance, not evening lychee, not any of the names they gave you. The real one. You spell it slowly, stroke by stroke. Your fingers tremble. When you finish, you fold the paper 3 times, place it under your pillow, and whisper, "You're still here." In the dream that follows, the moth returns. Bigger now, wings whole. It doesn't speak, but it lands on your lips, and you understand. It has eaten your silence, and it is hungry for more. It arrives in the hour before dawn, when the palace breathes the softest. You wake to the sound of silk sliding across lacquer so light you might have dreamed it. But when your eyes adjust, you see it a small parcel wrapped in orchid-coloured gauze, laid neatly on your low table, still dewed from the outside air. There is no bell, no guard, no note, just your name, stitched once into the edge of the wrap cloud fragrance. And yet, you already feel it doesn't belong to that name. You unfold it with careful fingers, expecting perfume or petals. But instead, in the centre of the silk lies your comb, not the bone-carved ornament they issued after your reclassification, the first one, the one you carried into the court as a girl with a travel basket and a lychee pit hidden in her sleeve, the one they took from you during your day of erosion. You thought they had burned it. Instead, it has been refined. It's heavier now. The once blunt teeth have been honed so finely they shimmer in the low light, not enough to wound, but enough to threaten. You turn it over in your hand. On the back, where your name was once worn smooth with use, someone has recarved it. Not cloud fragrance, not evening lychee, your real name, your birth name, sharp, permanent, still yours, still here. You don't speak. You wrap the comb again and slide it beneath your mat. You press your palm to the floorboard where it hides just long enough to feel the heat of it, as if the object remembers being taken and has returned not to comfort you, but to warn you. That morning, the world proceeds as if nothing has changed. You kneel at tea drills with a bowed head. You tilt your fan at exactly the practiced angle. You murmur appropriate praise at First Bloomer's attempts to recite the Sutra of Blushing Silence. But you don't see them. You see the comb. You feel it pressed like a splinter of memory in your back. With every movement, it whispers a question. Why now? 3 days pass. You say nothing. To no one. Not even Silk Cricket. The only girl in your wing who sometimes dares to cough without permission. She notices. Of course. She always does. The night of the full moon. She sits beside you at the edge of the bathhouse basin and dips her feet in with barely a ripple. She speaks without looking up. They don't return things unless they want something. You stay silent. She exhales. Was it yours? You nod. Slowly. Her mouth twitches, not a smile, not a warning. Something in between. Did it come back the same? You answer honestly. Sharper. She looks at you. Finally. Her eyes are dark but alert. Awake. Then you're next. You shiver. But not from the bathhouse cold. The next morning the summons arrives, but not from the Emperor, not from the Hall of Selection, from the Chamber of Echoes, a place you haven't entered since your first forgetting. You're not instructed to perform. You're told to observe. That's worse. When you arrive, the room is darker than you remember. The torches are lower, the spiral path tighter. Inside, 3 girls kneel at exact angles. Their faces blank with effort, their backs too straight. You recognize the look, terror disguised as obedience. A voice floats down from the alcove unseen, but deeply familiar. It's Lady Silk String, retired, ancient, watching. You will instruct them. You freeze. You aren't a teacher, but you also aren't allowed to say no. You kneel beside the first girl. Her wrists tremble beneath the sleeve. Her lips mouth an apology before she even makes a mistake. You correct her fan grip, not with your hands, with a whisper. She flinches anyway. Lady Silk String speaks again. Use your silence. That is what they remember. You almost laugh. But instead, you nod. For a week, you train them. Each day, you guide them through postures, breath drills, eye movement sequences. You correct their blinks. You tell them how much of themselves to show and how much to leave behind the veil. Each day, they get better. Each night, you return to your chamber and place the comb beside your pillow. You no longer sleep with your back turned to it. You sleep facing it. One night, the middle girl, Reed Pearl, asks to speak to you privately. You agree. You shouldn't. You know this. But you lead her to the quiet bridge near the koi basin where servants never linger. She bows, deeply, then straightens and says, I had a dream about you. You say nothing. You were combing your hair with a blade, and every strand that fell became a moth, and each moth carried a name. You inhale. She continues. They flew toward the Emperor's quarters, but they couldn't enter. She looks at you, pupils wide. Is that what you're teaching us? You pause. Then you say, I'm teaching you how not to be eaten. She nods. Then, softly, that's not what they want us to learn. You don't report her. You don't send a signal scroll, or you don't even correct her breathing pattern the next days when it flutters out of sync. But you leave a comb on her mat that night. Not yours, just one of the issued ones. But you scratch something into the back. Not your name, just a symbol. A moth. Wings down. Silk Cricket sees it. Of course she does. She leaves you no note, no fan, no ribbon, just a thread on your pillow. Unbroken. Coiled 3 times. The message is clear. Someone is watching. And still, the comb sharpens. You polish it one evening and find a new nick in the edge. You didn't make it, but it's there. And when you press your finger to it, you remember your sister's voice. You haven't thought about her in years. You remember the way she used to braid your hair before festivals, how she whispered. You always win when you smile before they can insult you. You remember her leaving, being chosen for the outer court. You never saw her again. You told yourself she was honoured, but the comb remembers differently. You place it beside the mirror and stare at it for an hour. You consider hiding it again, but you don't. You clean it, wrap it, and place it in your sleeve pocket where the scent of memory blossom still lingers. You walk into the hall of ceremony the next morning with your hair loose, and that, alone, earns whispers. You feel the floor shift beneath you, like the palace is leaning in, listening. The moth hasn't come back, not physically, but each night you dream of it, and each time it visits, it is less of a creature and more of a thought. It hovers over your pillow, wings made of thread and folded paper, whispering soon, and then you'll remember too much, and finally good. They call it an honour, but you know better now. When they ask you to train a new girl, it means one of 2 things. They think you've forgotten enough to become useful, or they think you haven't forgotten quite enough and want to test what remains. Either way, you say yes because refusal is not the same as defiance, and compliance is not the same as surrender. The girl's name is Feather String. Too delicate, too new. Her robes are stiff with starch. She bows too deeply, too often. And when you ask her why she wants to join the quiet court, she says, because I'm good at being silent. You do not smile. You do not congratulate her. You simply say, let's begin. The first week is rote. You teach her how to kneel with grace, where to place her fan when smiling, how to tilt her head when being praised, so it looks like modesty and not fear. She listens well, but not blankly. Her eyes flick, her fingers twitch at inopportune moments. Once, she blinks too fast when you recite the rule of fainting if you must collapse. Do so elegantly. You correct her. She nods. But the next day, she blinks the same way. You begin to realize this is not disobedience. It's resistance. Tiny. Fermented. Like rice left too long in a sealed jar. You report none of this. But you start to feel watched. More than usual. A eunuch lingers just slightly longer during veil fittings. Your practice schedule is reshuffled without warning. One morning, your rice is salted just enough to sting the inside of your lip. You do not complain. You smile. You adjust. You survive. Featherstring asks you strange questions. Why are mirrors always polished in the same direction? Why do the moths in the perfumery always gather on the north wall? Why is no one allowed to dance with both sleeves undone? Each time, you say, because that's the rule. She nods, but her mouth tightens. On the 10th day, she hands you something after practice. A folded paper. At first, you think it's an apology note, or a confession. Instead, it's a drawing. A simple one, but unmistakable, a girl sitting beside a basin, holding a comb. Above her, a moth, and inside the moth your name. Not cloud fragrance, not even lychee. The real one. You feel the ground tilt. You crumple the paper before she can blink. You don't yell. You don't gasp. You just say, "Where did you hear that name?" She shrugs. "I think I dreamed it." You study her. Too composed. Not innocent, but curious. You nod once, then tell her to take the afternoon off. She leaves, and you burn the drawing behind the bathhouse in the shadow of the steam pipes where only ghosts dare eavesdrop. That night, the moth returns. But not in a dream. On your wall, wings torn, antennae twitching. It moves once, twice, then stills. You wake with the comb in your hand, not because you meant to hold it, but because it placed itself there. You understand. It's not about Featherstring anymore. It's about what you'll do with her. The next day, you take her to the hall of repetition, empty, save for the echo. You recite the posture drills. She mirrors them. You correct her fan angle. She adjusts. Then, without warning, she speaks. "I heard you didn't flinch. In the room, you freeze." She continues. "They say you didn't blink when the brazier sparked, that your voice was clearer than the others, that you came back whole. You say nothing, because none of that is true. Because you did flinch, because you forgot your name. You swallowed your shame, you bled inside your own mind and called it ritual, and you came back quieter, but never whole. You step forward, lift her chin with 2 fingers. Her skin is too warm, too alive. You say, if you want to survive here, you must learn the difference between being quiet and being empty." She nods, but you don't think she understands. Not yet. You begin training her harder, not cruelly, just precisely. You make her hold poses longer. You make her answer riddles beneath breath. You make her carry a tray of oil lamps without letting a single one flicker. She gets better and worse. Because her posture improves, but her questions sharpen. She's learning the shape of the cage, and she's starting to test the bars. One night, she returns late from scroll sorting. Her hands are ink-stained. She leaves a note beside your bed. One word. Ready. You don't sleep. The following morning, you find a message in your sash. No sender, just a thread-wrapped pebble. It's a warning. You're being watched. Or she is. Or both. In the evening, you're called to Lady Silkstring. You kneel. She doesn't look up from her painting, and she says you've taught well, then you bow. But not cleanly. You freeze. She mirrors you too closely. Her spine is yours. Her questions are yours. You've given her something she was not supposed to inherit. You do not argue. You simply wait. Lady Silkstring finally looks at you. Eyes dry, unforgiving. Undo it. You bow again. Lower. Slower. But you say some mirrors crack when you wipe them too hard. She says nothing, and dismisses you with a fan flick. You do not see Featherstring the next day, or the one after. On the 3rd, her mat is folded, her tea bowl gone. A new girl sleeps in her place. You don't ask her name. You don't speak during drills. You do everything exactly right. But something inside you pulses a rhythm that doesn't belong to the palace. Not anymore. You unwrap the comb, place it beside the tea bowl, and whisper, "We begin again." You're summoned for the festival of scented lanterns. Everyone is. The entire quiet court will attend. It's meant to be a moment of relief, of soft wine, of twilight dancing, of lanterns shaped like lotus petals drifting across the southern pond while the eunuchs hum in 4-part harmony. You've attended twice before. Both times, you remembered the sugar-rubbed lychee skins and the goose-feather kites that drifted overhead like delicate ghosts. Both times, you played your part, but this year feels different. This year, there's a tremor beneath the silk. You dress in the robe they assign you, amber gauze layered over pale green, meant to suggest renewal, rebirth. You notice that it smells slightly of vinegar, as if it had been washed too quickly, scrubbed of something it shouldn't have seen. Your sash is knotted tighter than usual. You feel it in your ribs when you bow. You carry your fan. But for the first time, you also carry the comb, tucked beneath your sleeve, wrapped in moth silk, close enough to feel like a second pulse. The pavilion of Miracoy is already full when you arrive. Dozens of girls kneel in perfect formation, their veils fluttering like synchronized butterflies. The Emperor is not present. He never is. But a curtain at the far end flutters in the wind more than it should. You can't stop watching it. It's shaped like a mouth held half open in sleep, and it seems to breathe. The ritual begins. 4 trays are passed: candied ginger, plum wine, steamed jasmine rice, boiled pear. You perform your part, lift the fan, smile just so, sip, bow. But your attention keeps slipping, because behind that fluttering curtain, something is moving. Not a servant, not the breeze. Something heavier, deliberate, wrong. At the moment of lantern release, you're meant to whisper a wish into the silk flame and release it onto the pond. A girl beside you, new, soft-faced, whispers something too quickly. Her voice cracks. Her lantern bobbles. It knocks into yours. Both flames sputter. She gasps. And as she leans forward to apologize, her foot catches on the curtain cord. It jerks. The curtain drops. And for half a second you see it. Not a wall, not a storage alcove, not a tapestry, but a hallway, lit with low red lamps, lined with shoes. Dozens, maybe hundreds. All identical. All placed side by side with uncanny precision. Too clean. Too many. Shoes for feet that no longer return. And along the wall fans, each labelled, each tagged, each held in place by thin iron hooks, like evidence, like offerings, like records. The curtain is snapped back into place immediately. 2 eunuchs rush to the front. No announcement is made. The girl is removed. Gently, quietly, but absolutely. The rest of you bow, deeply, as instructed. The festival continues. No one mentions the shoes. That night, you sit in your chamber with your lantern unlit. You do not write your wish. You do not sip your tea. You unwrap the comb, and you place it against the stone floor, listening. It hums. Not loudly, but enough. Like a moth trapped in a jar, or a breath behind a closed mouth. You whisper how many girls didn't come back. The comb does not answer, but the silence that follows is not empty. You sleep poorly. Your dreams are fractured. A hallway of fans, each one opening like a mouth and screaming. A robe made entirely of shoes, dragging behind you like a net. A veil made of moth wings, too fragile to breathe through. You wake with sweat in your teeth. And a strip of parchment folded beside your bed. No writing, just a pressed flower inside. A magnolia. Dried, cracked, dead. The next day, your schedule is scrubbed. You're not sent to drills, not summoned to observe. You're assigned to inventory. It sounds harmless, but you know what it is. They want to see what you'll touch, what you'll find, what you'll say. You're given a scroll, a brush, and a eunuch named Long Willow to supervise. He does not smile. He does not speak unless you do. You don't. You are taken to the Hall of Forgotten Instruments. A long, dry-smelling corridor filled with ceremonial props no longer in rotation, fans with broken ribs, lanterns painted with wrong constellations, tea bowls that ring off key, shoes, so many shoes. Some are scuffed, some are pristine, all labelled. You begin to catalogue. You do not ask questions, but one pair stops you. Gold-threaded slippers with a faint stain at the toe. You recognise the pattern, feather strings. You pause. Long Willow says nothing. You brush a speck of dust from the left shoe, and beneath it a note, folded 12 times. You glance up. Longwillow watches, but does not move. You slide the note into your sash and keep writing. That night, when you are alone, you unfold the paper. It reads, "I made it as far as the fan wall. I left something behind. It's still mine. Don't let them erase me entirely. No signature. But you remember her voice, the way she once blinked too fast when you taught her how to kneel, the way she dreamed of moths." You unfold the paper again, and behind the ink you see a faint impression, pressed in, with a comb. You place your own comb over it. It matches perfectly. The next morning, you choose your robe yourself, not the assigned one. Yours, from before. The one with the hidden moth embroidery. You wear it under a layer of gauze, unseen, but present. The way memory lives inside the body. The way names live in the teeth long after they stop being spoken. You leave your chamber early, past the hall of repetition. You pause before the pavilion of Miracoy. The curtain flutters again. This time, you don't stop walking. You step through. No one sees, or if they do, they let you. Inside, the hallway is silent, still lined with shoes, still glowing with red lamps. The fans watch you as you pass. Your fingers twitch, but you do not take one. You only walk, past rows of silk that no longer smell like girls, past names stitched and crossed out, past the part of the palace that was never meant for survival, only for containment. And somewhere, in that hush, you hear it. A voice, soft, threadbare, but yours. You're not what they returned. You are what came back on its own. The curtain does not open. It shreds, silently, cleanly. You hear the tear before you see it. A paper-thin rasp in the early morning quiet, like silk snapping under a breath. You open your eyes to a pale dawn. The chamber is as it was, folded robes, cooling incense, a fresh layer of rice powder on the side tray. But in the center of your mat lies something that wasn't there before. A slip of silk, no embroidery, just a single moth, hand-painted in red ink, wings down. Your hands go cold, because the moth is your mark, because it's not supposed to return, because it means something has shifted officially. The Hall of Names has not summoned anyone in 7 years. You're not told it summoned you. You just wake to a new robe on your door, unpatterned, unranked, meant for someone who no longer serves, no longer obeys, no longer performs, someone who is finished. You put it on. The comb slips into your sleeve like a whisper. You do not pack. You do not bow. You do not breathe too loudly. You walk. Down 7 flights. Past the chamber of untouched scrolls. Past the veiled statue of the forgotten concubine. Down to the base of the palace, where the air is wet with mildew and history, where names go to die or worse, to be rewritten, where no one leaves with the same shape of soul they entered with. You knock. Once. The door opens inward. Inside ink. Everywhere. It drips from the rafters. Pools in bowls. Smears across the floor in patterns that might once have meant something. The scribes do not look up. They crouch over parchment, over stone, over fabric, writing, erasing, writing again. One scribe raises a hand and gestures to the wall. There, you see it. Your history. Evening light she struck through once. Cloud fragrance struck through twice. A blank space below. Waiting. You step forward, but not yet. You kneel before the altar. There's a bowl of water in front of you. You've done this before years ago, on your first day of erosion. Back when your hands still smelled of a home, and your knees hadn't yet learned to bleed quietly. Back then, you were told to dip your comb in the bowl and speak your name until it disappeared. You obeyed, and you forgot. But this time, you don't dip the comb. You raise it, and carve your name into the water's reflection, not with a voice, with gaze. And the water trembles. A scribe approaches. His face is veiled, but his ink-stained fingers shake slightly. He holds out a brush, a signal. You may write. Not what you've been called. What you claim, you accept it. Step to the wall, find your old selves, and below them, you write the one they stole first, slowly, carefully, loop by loop. It fits, not because the space allowed it, but because the space was made for it. You step back. The brush smokes faintly in your hand. The scribes all stop at once. Ink hisses. Scrolls curl, one by one. They kneel, not to worship you, but to witness you. You are not given a title. You are not given applause. You are given silence. But it's different now. Not enforced, not weaponized. Chosen. You leave the hall with the comb in your hand, unwrapped, visible. No one stops you. That night, you sit in the pavilion of fallen leaves, surrounded by lesser-ranked girls. No veil, no fan. You wear your name on your back like a wound finally aired. A few glance up, a few look away. One girl no older than 13 stares too long. You invite her to sit. She does. And when you ask her name, she answers. They haven't given it yet. You pause, then whisper. What name do you want? She blinks, as if no one's ever asked, and you smile. Not as a teacher, not as a survivor, as a beginning. Days pass, then weeks. You aren't reassigned, you aren't promoted, you aren't summoned, but your fan isn't replaced, your mirror is never removed, your tea is delivered hot, and every now and then, a moth lands on your sleeve and stays a little longer than it should. Something ancient is watching, and for once not judging. On the 18th day, a ceremony's held for veil induction. You aren't on the roster. You go anyway. Not to participate, to stand, to be seen. The robes shift around you. The chants hum. You say nothing. But when one girl trembles during her vow, her voice cracking just before the final syllable, you catch her eye, and she says it again, clear this time, not to the hall, to you. The moth comb remains on your table. You no longer hide it. You place it beside your oil dish. Some nights, it hums. Some nights, it burns. Some nights, it simply exists. Like you. Real, sharp, unignorable. You do not return to your old name fully. You let the past live beside you. Not dominate. Not vanish. Just breathe. Because forgetting is how they keep you tame. But remembering is how you burn clean. The last entry in the Hall of Names remains unstruck. No scribe touches it. No ink crosses it. And no one speaks it aloud. But when girls walk past your chamber and smile, they smile with their whole faces, and that's enough. For now, for always. Together the palace is still. Somewhere, a fan rests on lacquer. A cup cools beside a sleeping hand. A moth settles against a wall that no longer needs to move. The halls do not echo now. Even the shadows sleep. You lie where you've always lain, a robe tucked at your ankles, a whisper folded beneath your cheek. The pillow holds its shape for you now. It remembers the way your head turns. It no longer startles. Somewhere behind the curtain, incense is fading. It curls inwards like a closing eye. A single blossom, placed hours ago, begins to brown at the edges, but only softly. Nothing here shouts. Even the memories are tired. You think, just once, of the girl who danced too early, of the room with the jars, of the silence that tasted like sweetness and vinegar, of the name you used to answer to, and then you let it all float. You're not pressed, not watched, not performed. You are only here, breathing, still. The moth comb rests beside you. The oil fades from your wrist, and every sound left in the palace now belongs to the night, to sleeping teeth, to distant bells that no longer need you, to the kind of hush that feels like being remembered. You close your eyes, no audience, no mask, just silk and breath, and a name only your dreams still know. Hey guys, tonight we're crawling into a longhouse so dark it makes your blackout curtains look like neon. We're going back to a time when sleep wasn't tracked on apps or sabotaged by glowing rectangles. No alarms, no roommates stomping in at 2 just the slow breath of 20 bodies, the creak of timber, and the faint, terrifying realization that the Vikings may have slept better than anyone in history. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I love seeing how far this sleepy little time machine reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The fire has died. Not completely, just enough that the last curl of flame clings to a splinter of birch like a drunk friend refusing to leave the tavern. The rest is ash, the kind that floats in the air and settles in your hair. You taste it when you yawn. You're on your side. The fur pelt wrapped around your shoulders is stiff near the edges, where old sweat and wood smoke have stiffened it into something between a blanket and a bark. It smells like everything in here smells fat, fire, and something sour from the goats. Your left cheek is pressed into straw that was fresh maybe 4 weeks ago. Now it's flattened, slightly damp, and has the peculiar sharp scent of mouse urine, mould, and dust. But it's better than bare wood, better than snow, better than nothing. Your feet touch someone else's. Small toes, warm, probably your cousin's. You know the curve of her heel better than the face of your own father you've spent every winter night since you were 6 sleeping beside her. It's freezing. Not in the dramatic, cinematic way, not with blizzards and howling wolves, just steady. Heavy cold that seeped into the beams of the longhouse, curled up into the corners like a dog you forgot to feed. Your breath puffs visibly. It rises, then disappears. The thatched roof above you is so low it's almost comforting, like being buried under a boat hull. You could reach up and touch the wooden ribs, but you don't. The movement would wake your brother, and his temper after sleep is worse than the storm that took your uncle's boat. There is no pillow, just your arm, folded under your head until the numbness sets in and you turn, again, to find some other angle your bones can tolerate. The fire wheezes, then nothing. Darkness wins. And in that silence, not city silence, but Viking silence, you realize something peculiar. You're not alone. Not in the obvious sense. You've always known there are 15 to 20 people sleeping in here, spread out like salted fish on wooden racks. But this feels different. It's not the people who bother you. It's the fur. It breathes. It shifts against your back in a way that's too deliberate for a draft. You freeze, heart thudding like someone beating a war drum with a bone. It's probably just the dog. You hope it's just the dog. The first time this happened, you screamed. That was when you were 10. The slap your mother gave you echoed louder than the scream did. Now you've learned to flinch in silence, to hold your fear like hot iron between your teeth, to wait. Then, a familiar sound. Thorvald's snore. Deep, croaking. The kind of sound that suggests a nose too often broken and a soul too untroubled by dreams. It's loud enough to startle the chickens in the far corner. You shift your leg to scratch an itch. Your knee brushes against something soft round. A goat. You hope. Its breathing is gentle, rhythmic, like waves. This is comfort. This is safety. This is normal. No rooms, no beds. Just one long box of sleeping flesh and fire and fur. You are a Viking. You sleep where others breathe. You sleep in pack formation, like animals, because that's what you are here, a warm animal in the dark. The ceiling has no stars, but you count the knots in the wood like constellations. That one looks like a rabbit. That one like an axe. That one. You don't finish the thought. The door creaks. Just slightly. Just once. The outer world is not supposed to visit you now. Not during the still time, when even the gods rest. But something enters. Or maybe leaves. Or maybe you're just tired. Your grandmother used to say that when the fire pops 3 times after midnight. Odin is walking past. You wonder if he sees you curled like a child, curled like the men he doesn't choose for Valhalla. Your eyes grow heavy, but sleep doesn't come in one piece here. It never has. There is first sleep, the deep, dead kind, where even thunder feels distant. Then there's this, the waking hour. Not insomnia, not fear, just habit. You're not alone in waking. You hear someone shift near the hearth, a pot clinks, someone hums, low, tuneless, like bees circling a drowned flower. Astrid. You can tell by the cadence of her voice. The healer, the widow, the woman who claims to speak to dreams. She stirs something in a bowl, and the smell wafts toward you. Valerian root, honeyed ale, birch bark ash, sleep in liquid form. Old sleep. Sleep that came before pills, before clocks, before the idea that sleep had to be earned. You close your eyes again, and the image forms without asking. A black longship drifting over snow, sails lowered, silent as a ghost. You are on it, or under it, or dreaming of it. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you are not afraid. The fire has died, the fur breathes, and sleep begins again. You wake without fear, not startled, not pulled from some nightmare or sound, just lifted. Like something inside you has gently turned a page. You don't sit up. Not yet. Your eyes barely open, adjusting to the room's endless gradient of dark. Not the digital black of a blank screen, but something heavier, more honest. It's the kind of dark that makes your skin feel porous, like you're soaking in it. The longhouse is breathing, slow and deep, a collective exhale of bodies tangled under fur and straw and skin. You're still curled beneath the pelt goat skin, patched with old repairs. There's a tear near your knee where a chicken once pecked through. The fur smells faintly of salted sweat, smoke, and winter breath. Something stirs near your shoulder, so you freeze. Not out of panic, no. You're used to waking like this. The second waking, Astrid calls it. The old folks just nod and say it's the way of things. You've known it since you were a child, this space between sleeps. Not quite a dream, not quite awake. Behind you, your cousin shifts and mutters something in sleep, a half-formed name. Maybe yours. Maybe the name of someone dead. The fire has fallen low. No flames, just soft, red-bellied coals, exhaling their last warmth like a dying animal. You can smell the iron pot even before it boils, a thick, metallic breath that clings to the straw floor. You move, just a little, enough to lift your elbow, prop your body, turn your face toward the hearth. The cold rushes in under the fur, shocking your belly, wrapping itself around your ribs like a wet rope. You gasp. A figure is already awake, moving with the caution of someone who knows exactly which beams creak and where the cold drafts slip in. She doesn't look at you, but you know the shape of her spine, the bun of her hair, the stoop in her shoulders. Astrid. She squats by the coals, feeding them twigs and dry moss. Her breath joins the smoke, and for a moment, she seems more ghost than woman. But then she hums, not a song, just a note, repeating, low, pulsing, animal-like. You know it. Everyone does. It's the tune she hums when she brews the night root. You sit up more fully now, careful not to jostle the furs around you. Your body is stiff, not from pain, but from the inertia of cold, that slow crystallizing tension that sets into joints when the fire has slept longer than you have. The room smells like damp wool, burnt milk, the faint sour tang of feet, and the sweet rot of valerian root in mead, the kind of cocktail that would be a crime in modern hotels. But here it's comfort. Somewhere across the room, someone sneezes. You hear them mutter a curse in the dialect of the far coast. They must be one of the newer arrivals. New people always take a few weeks to adjust, to understand that waking in the middle of the night isn't a problem, it's a rhythm. The longhouse never sleeps all at once. That's a lie the future tells itself. You watch Astrid stir the pot. The steam rises in curls, visible even in the half-dark. You crawl from your bed, bare knees on hard-packed dirt. The cold sears like an insult, but you make no sound. You move like one of the shadows. The room opens wider as you walk. You count the sleeping bodies not by name, but by smell, size, sound. That lump with the whistling nostrils is Thorvald. The massive shape wrapped in two hides and snoring like an ox is Helga's man. The twins by the door always sleep back to back, shivering. You think they like it that way? You pass the chickens. Two cluck in their sleep. One opens an eye. No one truly sleeps alone here, not even the birds. Astrid looks up as you approach, but she doesn't greet you. She offers you a cup. It's warm in your palms, rough clay, no glaze. A hairline crack runs along the lip. You sip. It tastes like damp earth and old honey, like roots pulled too early, like something that's not quite food and not quite medicine. Your body knows what to do with it. Before the taste even finishes registering, your limbs are already beginning to sink. Astrid doesn't speak, but she hands you something else, a small lump wrapped in linen. You open it. Dried herbs, crumble to dust. You catch a whiff juniper, yarrow, and crushed poppy stem. Things for the mind. Things that tilt dreams toward vision. Not everyone believes in it, but tonight, you do. You sit by the fire with her, sipping slow, watching the coals sigh. The silence between you is like fabric worn, soft, and old enough to be trusted. She finally speaks, but it's not to you. It's to the house. She says the moon is still full. You glance toward the thatched roof. No window, but somehow you know she's right. You feel it. The pressure in your skull, the tension in your skin, the fact that every dream tonight has been too vivid, too sharp around the edges. Someone had a nightmare earlier. A boy, maybe 7. He screamed once, just once. Then his father clamped a hand over his mouth and whispered something probably about the Norns, or the wolf dreams. No one screams twice here. Astrid begins to speak again. Not to you, to herself, or to whatever listens in the dark. She speaks of old sleeps, of when her mother used to lay moss under her head to filter dreams. She speaks of the time she forgot to blow out the lamp and saw shadows dancing where there was no flame. She speaks of a man who slept through the death of his wife and woke with her hair in his mouth. You don't interrupt, because in this hour, all stories are sacred. Behind you. The longhouse shifts again. Someone has woken. A baby cries. A soft, desperate sound. Then a woman hums familiar, nasal, cracked with exhaustion. You sip the last of the drink. The taste has mellowed, less bitter now, like your tongue has forgotten its complaints. You lie back down. The straw feels less hostile than before. The fur clings to your body like a second skin. Your eyes flutter, but you keep them open just a little longer, because this waking between two dreams is the place where memory gets rewritten. You remember last winter now? Not the whole thing, just a smell. Fish oil, burned soup, a laugh that turned into a cough. You remember laying here while snow buried the world outside and thinking, what if this is all there is? What if sleep isn't escape but return? The longhouse creaks. The fire pops. Astrid hums again. Then you sleep. Not the deep, desperate plunge of first sleep, but the drift. Your breathing slows. You feel yourself sink. But before you vanish entirely, you see something. A figure at the far end of the room. Standing, watching, not moving, not real. Probably not. Maybe just your father. Maybe not. Their face is veiled by smoke. Their hands are empty, but they feel heavy, like they're carrying all your unfinished thoughts. They lift one finger, point to the rafters. You blink. They're gone. You turn over, pull the fur tighter, press your cheek against the old sharp straw. It pokes your skin, but you don't care, because the second sleep is here, and this time, you don't need to dream anything at all. Your mouth tastes like bark and ash. Not in a poetic way, not like, ooh, smoky flavor profile, but in the raw, papery texture of something steeped too long in an iron pot by a woman who believes in herbs more than gods. You don't mind. That bitterness means it's working. You haven't moved in. Maybe an hour, maybe 2.